Hey everyone, and welcome to our, episode 20 of the podcast, which is really just our commentary, again, of Man of Steel. Katie and I obviously did this commentary right before we started doing the podcast, and with everything going on with Justice League and everything, we thought, hey, why not just start from the beginning and go back to what really made us fans to begin with. So, joining me are obviously some familiar faces. So, if you guys want to go around and introduce yourselves to the listeners.
Hi, my name is Artem, and I'm Greg Ungwa on Tumblr.
I'm Danielle, and I'm a Social Justice League on Tumblr.
And I'm Katie, and I'm Story Advocate on Tumblr.
Alright, so we're all going to start the movie at the same time. All of our movies are pretty much synced up at the main menu. So, before we get started, I just want to, I've done this with Katie and stuff in the past. So with Danielle and Artyom, for you guys, what was kind of your first exposure to this movie? Like, did you immediately go out to see it? Like, what were your first reactions when you first saw the movie?
Me and my friend, we saw it at the day of the premiere, and we spent almost 3 hours discussing it afterwards. That's how powerful it was. It's like,
awesome.
I don't know, it felt like an enlightenment that comic book movies can be that. Mm-hmm. It was mind-blowing experience, to put it short.
And Danielle?
I was not actually a Superman fan. I came to this whole thing as a Batman fan. I might not have even seen it if it weren't for my girlfriend being a Superman fan, and sort of prepping me for, I feel like it was a couple of months before the movie even came out. It got announced, and then all of a sudden I was in Superman boot camp, and I was being handed comics, and I was being basically indoctrinated in this Superman thing. And I think we did a Smallville rewatch, a short Smallville rewatch, not the whole thing, because that would have been nuts.
Oh yeah, that's 10 years of TV.
A lot. It would have probably burnt me out a little bit, actually, because at the time I didn't have I wasn't bringing any passion to it. I was just sort of oh yeah, this
watching
is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And then I read the novelization of Death and Return, and then it got really important to me all of a sudden. And we started making a wish list. We started saying, okay, well, if we were going to put Superman in the present day, what would we do? What would we do with Superman? What would we do with Lois? What would we do with Lex Luthor? And we made this wish list, a really specific wish list. And we were yeah, wouldn't it be cool? That would be so cool. Cool. It's probably not going to happen because, we're comic book movie veterans. We knew that it was going to be disappointing. And we went, it always is. It's always been, historically, it's always been disappointing. And I went into the theater, and just the whole time I'm just sitting there what the fuck? What the fuck? This is everything on my wish list. This is everything. This movie is granting all my wishes. All of it. It was just it was everything that I could have wanted out of a comic book movie, and I couldn't. It was so crazy to be in a theater and actually have that validated and have all of those ideas validated, and really feel a director understood that the way that I saw the world through this character. It was, the first time was super, super, super crazy. And after that, I just fell off a steep cliff. I think I got a Tumblr the day after. And that's my origin story, so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so for me, I've been a diehard Superman fan for the last, decade or more. So what got me into these movies, oddly enough, was, the promotion for Superman Returns. Because my family would get Entertainment Weekly all the time. And so one of the covers was of Brandon Routh's Superman. I'm wow, it looks really cool. So I was reading into it. I got super excited for the movie. I saw it. I loved it at the time. Then I got super into Smallville. I watched all of it when it was on ABC Family for the reruns. And then I watched it nonstop until it ended. And for me, getting into this movie, all the trailers impressed me. I was a little worried because it was still somewhat fresh off of Smallville. It was I would say a couple years after Smallville ended. So I still had that in my head. I was still kind of in the the Smallville / Reeve era of Superman, of I kind of know what to expect with this character, so I didn't know like what Zach could have done differently, you know. But I was still excited nonetheless. And then it was one of the last trailers for the movie that like actually had Hans' theme in it. The "What are you going to do when you're not saving the world" theme, or that became known as An Ideal of Hope. That hands down to me is one of my favorite comic trailers, or even just movie trailers of all time. It's like that, and then the Batman v Superman Comic Con trailer, are like my top 2 trailers ever. I literally like listen and watch that Man of Steel trailer on repeat. And then I saw the movie like the night before it premiered, because like Walmart was doing this like exclusive screening where like you can get these passes that have like the Man of Steel logo on it, and I still have them to this day. And so my friend and I saw it early, and I was very, very mad because like my friend said he was gonna go with me, and then like it was like the hour before the movie was gonna start, and I'm like, dude, where are you? He's like, I don't know if I want to go. You can kind of go without me. I'm like, dude, are you fucking kidding me? Like, we're going to this thing. Like, you promised. I paid for your ticket. and then we sat through it, and I loved every second of this movie. And it was so nice to have that, like, as a Superman fan. That's why I'll still never understand the frustrations that some people have who lived in, like, during the Reeve era and Smallville era. Like, oh my god, this isn't my Superman. I'm like, I've lived through every era of, really, not lived through, but like I've experienced every era as a fan, and I was still able to love this Superman. So I never understood that criticism, and this movie just floored me on every possible level, from the action to the storytelling to the way they introduced Lois Lane, and the fact that she was able to figure out his secret without it being some stupid trope that's been overdone so many times.
She's so boss.
Yeah, and we'll get into it once we start the movie. But it's just, this movie is so incredible, and I'm so happy it was Zach was ultimately the one who did it. Because I know there are so many different directors over the years who were like lined up to do these movies, whether it was J.J. Abrams or Mick G, or whoever. I think Zach has truly made the best standalone Superman movie. I truly think so.
Agreed.
So with that being said, I think now's a good time to get started.
Yeah, my menu stopped playing on the repeat, and now it's just showing me a picture. I think it's impatient.
Alright, so now I need to unmute mine. Okay. Okay, so mine's just at the menu, so I'm ready to start whenever you guys are.
Alright,
Ready anytime.
I have a spinning circle, so give me a second.
Okay.
I don't know what that means. Amazon is thinking.
Thinking really hard.
What's going down? You can do it.
Don't fail me now, buddy.
What do you mean insufficient bandwidth?
Well, Zod's in your bandwidth, honey.
I don't even know what bandwidth is, to be totally honest with you guys.
Neither do I.
It's going to interfere with my playback, but that's okay, because I've seen the movie a million times. I don't think it's going to be a huge problem.
Okay.
Hold on. We're spinning circle again. It's like, are you sure? Because this is a disastrous situation. I put it on my iPad, but it's so ugly. What do you mean my bandwidth is too low? Is my PlayStation a piece of crap? Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
Got it?
Sweet!
Wait, that was an ordeal.
We just needed a little
Just telling me all sorts of information I don't understand, so.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, now I'm ready.
Okay. Alright, so for everyone listening, we're all synced up, so we're going to start the movie in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I have my, like, anti-piracy thing coming
Oh, me
up.
too.
Yeah, same.
Awesome. Piracy is not a victimless crime.
Yeah.
I know. Think of all those villages they burned down.
I know.
Parents strongly cautioned. Sorry.
Okay, so mine's starting. So now it's at the WB logo.
You know
Okay.
what?
Give me a blue circle. What the?
I bet legendary right now. Should I pause for
There we
a
go.
millisecond?
Yeah, give it like 1 second. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because I think we had the piracy thing and you didn't. That's what. Yeah.
Yeah, mine was just like enjoy the features after the show.
Thank you.
Okay, so
It doesn't care if I
so
pirate.
the legendary logo just passed. I think it's going to the DC logo.
I've got the DC Comics logo right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Even though I like the new DC logo, I kind of liked the old one, the one that showed here.
Yeah.
I like this one a lot.
I kind of miss
I
it.
like how Hans Zimmer's music started playing at the beginning
me too,
of the
like, right
credits,
away.
and it swallows you right into the movie.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
You know what? And this is Christopher Nolan's company, Syncope. Honestly, after reading everything and talking and hearing about how closely Christopher Nolan actually ended up working with Zack on Man of Steel and how much he defended him to the studio, I really miss Christopher Nolan being around for these movies.
Me too.
Who
I'm like,
knew
dude,
that
can
Nolan
we
was our
buy you
hero?
a medal?
I know,
You know,
like,
I was so
honestly,
nervous
after
about
I-
him being
okay,
involved
here we go.
because I was like, I don't want this to be Batman. And now I feel bad because I think that he was really important to the process.
Yeah, I think he was the one. I think that's why this remains. I think this remains the one DCEU movie that remained untouched by the studio.
Yep. I love their advanced ultrasound techniques.
Crush for the rest of my life on
Yeah.
Islet Zurr. My God.
She's awesome.
You have to imagine,
Just-
like, I don't wonder if she even knew what to expect, because at this point in their culture, it is the first natural birth.
Yes, I was just
It
thinking
must be
that.
the scariest thing in the whole world. Like,
Oh, yeah.
honestly, because it feels like everything's going wrong.
I know.
Yeah, well, and you could feel that too. Even Jor-El, he's a little bit nervous there. You know, it's like, what if this goes really, really badly?
Like, they probably read about it in books, and the whole process is very theoretical to them. And then it happens, and it's like, is this supposed to be happening? Is this supposed to feel like this?
Yeah.
I love this movie. Okay.
Me too.
Even this part feels like it's a bit compressed, though. Honestly,
Yeah.
like this
Yeah.
Krypton stuff, it feels like it's cut in a way that I think that like maybe Zach kind of like made a movie about Krypton, and then was like, maybe we should actually just make a Superman movie. Like,
Knowing Zach, because he's really, really, really intricate in a lot of things, it wouldn't surprise me at all if his original cut of this was like 3 hours and 45 minutes, and then he shaved it down to 2:30. You know, like it would not surprise me at all. And I just kind of come to expect that. But what I would really like is all that extra, just in some kind of, you know, extra format.
well, and they did so much world building for Krypton. Like everything is so intricate here, and
There's so
apparently
much detail in
Kryptonese
the world,
exists
too.
in
Yes.
this universe. We just got that news. That's really cool.
God, this is so cool.
Okay, I'm just watching and not talking. I'm awful. I love how they all have their
the
different
one thing that
symbols,
sucks too is
though.
that like we kind of have to be careful
I mean-
how much we don't talk because with the Wonder Woman commentary, there's a few minutes where we were silent and Warner Brothers docked it for copyright, and it took me like
Oh,
forever
crap.
to upload it. Yeah.
Okay, we'll keep chatting then.
Keep talking.
All right, I think someone is like a couple seconds.
The
ahead.
history here.
Exactly. I would say you get an immediate sense of the history and all the subtext of their acting. These are two really good actors, and Zod's hand on his shoulder. You know, I mean,
This makes me wish that
Yeah.
like the series that we're doing, the Krypton series that
Was
we were
about
doing,
them.
like isn't like a grandfather kind of thing. Was actually like Jor-El and
yeah.
Zod, because like that's the relationship that really matters to us in terms
That's
of
a
story.
really interesting story. Yep.
And it seems like it's a super textured one. So
Yep.
Okay, one thing I love how they made Jor-El a badass too. Like he knew how to fight.
Me too. Scientist.
And
He's a
I
scientist.
love the design of their clothing. Like
Yes.
it's the one thing I love that the Christopher Reeve movie set up was that like the Superman symbol being like a symbol of the House of El. And I love how this movie like carries on that idea.
So in comics, that was not the symbol of the House of El. Like that's
Not
like
until
straight
until
up
Superman the movie.
in this
no.
universe.
Yeah, so the Superman movie started that
That's
idea.
awesome.
Alright, so I think someone's a few seconds ahead of me.
I love how instantly everything's changed, though. Even though the top was decimated, it was still pretty peaceful and calm when he went in there. Now it's all just complete and total chaos.
Yeah, I think we don't really see like the scope of the like that. There's literally like clearly like a literal military uprising. Like it looks like what we could be like the whole Kryptonian military is revolting right now, and that speaks to the enormity of the council's mistake. Is that like the regular people are sort of like, well, we're fucked. It's time to kill all the rich.
Yep.
It's time to go revolutionary. I love, though, like, even as you watch Jor-El fly and, you know, and prepare to go get the codex and stuff like that, you look behind him and you see all the carving into the earth and how everybody's living in there. And without ever saying anything, without turning to the camera and giving that exposition to the audience, you know, everybody's living underground because the top is totally useless. Look what you did. You know, they just put it there. And it really took me the second time, you know, on 3rd, 4th, and 85th, watching it to go like, oh my gosh, yeah, okay. You know, and you really get an awesome view of what life was like on their planet. But you have to actually really be looking for it. You've got to be actively engaged. It's not just going to give it to you.
Just the architecture and the just the very structure of the planet being so very different from ours is so cool, because a lot of times when you have this idea of the Kryptonians, authors tend to sort of interpret them as like you know, like medieval British royalty or something, like just something very like pedestrian and something very like, you know, sort of that makes us feel like Superman is like royalty. For some reason, they really want him to be sort of like a Kryptonian prince, and I think that this is so much more like refreshing and dirty and just fleshy and real because of all like the bug imagery and all of the like, it's like sort of like all like early 90s hair metal kind of feel. That it really gives this organic understanding of Krypton, and sort of like it makes us feel like Clark is just a regular civilian, and I like that, just like a random young man from this planet.
It has its own
they
identity.
took out one of his wings. I didn't notice that.
I think
oh my gosh. Rude.
I really like how Jor-El trusted that this animal will pick him up when he jumped. I wonder if they pick their animals, like, you know, at the early age and bond with them emotionally throughout the time. Like, you know how in Harry Potter they pick their ovals, and what if Kryptonian were picking their these flying animals?
I like how with humans like
Appa and the Sky Bison, you know.
I love this whole seemingly intelligent population line.
Oh gosh, I giggle every single time. I'm like, seemingly. Sorry, Jor-El, you were wrong.
He'll die out there. No.
Alright, so I guess the sound on my DVD messed up, so I had to switch to my iTunes version.
I thought I could, but not if he's here.
Oh,
Krypton is doomed.
I feel like that's the one thing that I love about this version of Lara, is that like they never truly explore the fact that, hey, like they're giving up their child. You know, like it's always been like, oh well, we're doing this thing. Bye, Kal-El. And now it's like how would you seriously, like how would you truly feel if like your son who you just birthed, you have to send away as you're about to die? You know?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a reflection of this lack of sterility. Like we don't have these like austere parents. We have these parents who are super involved already and super, you know, bonded with with Cal.
Yep, it's beautiful too, and it makes total sense that, you know, I don't know, when he's inside and she's you know, he's still pregnant. He's still in there, and it's kind of a far off future or stuff like that. And it's not really real until he's here, and you have to take this helpless thing and send it away. You know, holy crap! I cannot imagine. I loved how deeply they went into it.
Me too.
And I appreciated it, because this is not an easy thing. Should never be an easy thing, and it should never be depicted as such a simple option.
And also, one thing I want to bring up too is they used the same score when Lex was showing Clark the pictures of Martha and Batman v Superman.
Yep.
The whole like mother theme.
pretty sure Russell Crowe said he got peed on a couple times, which is hilarious. So
That's what happens when you undiaper those kids.
exactly. I always expected the codex to be the reason they could bring her back. They just made it with time.
I think this is my favorite soundtrack track. This is it. Like, I call this the orphan track, and I listen to it expressly to cry. Like, literally just to sit there and, like, weep.
I love this battle armor too.
And it's very epic, you know, epic in scale of it. Because a lot of it's epic.
Concentrate fire on the main door! Concentrate fire on the main door!
Ready for battle, baby.
Just the way that they shoot Laura in all of these sequences, like the camera work on her is exquisite. Like whoever, you know, like he's designing those shots, and it's like he has a crush on her power.
This platform
I love how much emphasis was given to her. I'm so used to them getting just passed over as quickly as possible and being such a passive presence, especially in comic book films. But in most films, and especially action films or anything with action, that it just kind of flows over me, and I just go, and it was suddenly like, holy crap, she's really involved in this. She's like setting the course. She's, you know what I mean? Like they had to talk about sending him away together and come down to it, and you know, it just was. I couldn't believe how much she was integrated into the story. It made me so happy.
He will be free.
I mean, and it starts on her face. Like she's the first thing that we see, and she's like the focal point of that birth scene. And I think that's so cool.
I've seen when Zod's parents see his mouth trembling after saying this, like it strikes me so hard. How it's like defensive and almost like
This fight's serious business, man. I love watching this fight.
There's some real like kickboxing moves in there.
Yeah, he gets some serious butt.
And you really forget how much CGI was used on Zod throughout the entire movie, just of how seamless it is. Like with both like suits that he wears.
Yep.
Laura, listen to me. Laura, the Codex is Krypton's future. Abort the launch.
Like Michael Shannon turned it up to like 1,000 on this performance.
He's so perfect.
But you never ever question his commitment. Like Zod is nuts about this. Like,
no, and that moment is the best ever. Mr. Earl says nothing and just looks at her, and she looks at him. I don't know. I think that's the precursor to Lois talking without words, and he doesn't try to argue with her. And he doesn't try to. No, Lord, don't listen. You know, he just waits. It's beautiful. Ow!
This was so ballsy to do because you know he's gonna die anyway.
Exactly.
yeah.
But to have it like Zod like physically went and killed him.
Literally everyone on the planet is gonna die, and he's like, "No, I want you to know that this is personal."
Your son, Laura. Where have you sent him?
Her wardrobe, by the way.
I like her wardrobe.
My God. The plush fabric, and the way it drapes, and just like it's so elegant and rich.
That's what I was gonna say.
She's so strong. I love her so much.
That was almost Gal's role.
Ooh, and there's the other strong woman. You know, Gal would have killed him, but I would have been kind of sorry if she missed out on Wonder Woman.
And there's a Kryptonian stormtrooper.
We would have missed out on Gal's smile, which would have been sad.
Yeah.
down your weapons. Your forces are surrounded.
I also feel like we've sort of like we've done this thing where we're sort of casting for a uniformity of look on Krypton, and I think that's really cool in terms of like their weird Aryan influence and their genetic engineering and how they've sort of defined one standard of beauty for this planet and are able to sort of just design people now that way. And how bland that becomes to look at. If they weren't all wearing ornamentation, like they'd all look like they were related.
That's the one thing I'm curious about too, is how like they continue like a family's bloodline. Do they just like take the DNA of like the husband and wife and then create the baby that way through like just mix? I'm very interested in how they use the genetics in this culture, you know?
I will reclaim what you have taken from us.
Oh my god.
This whole
Queen?
scene right here.
She's so awesome. I know.
That look she cuts him?
Right here.
I know.
Yeah.
She's awesome.
I will
right here,
find him.
The only time she got a different look on her face, though, when he quietly whispered or said, "I will find him," and I think that clear-cut determination just kind of gave her a chill of, for a minute, you know?
Okay, the one thing
So clear about it.
The one thing I did find kind of weird was like the phallic imagery right here.
Where everybody and their dog. What the heck?
Penis rocket. What is happening?
The first time, I'm just like la 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 la, you know.
I
They have
noticed
feet.
it
Their feet
immediately.
stick out.
I'll admit I'm 14. I looked at their penises. I don't get it.
And I love like you see like the water drip on the camera too.
Like he's so
Oh, isn't that amazing? Because like it's the view up from Lara's actual perspective
Yep.
and the tears in her eyes.
I never thought of it that way. Oh my
when
god.
I got that, I literally hit the floor. I was like, "Oh, are you serious, Zach? Are you fucking kidding me right now?"
He's such a visceral, you know, I don't know, director in the way he does things like that. He creates basic visuals, but also you just feel like you're there, you know, you feel like you're that close. It's really cool. And the more I look at it, the more it's like, you know, so much of this, it just even looks, acts, thinks, breathes, talks like a comic book. Everything about it. It's just, it's really cool. Everything I can picture is just a small little frame, you know, in a comic strip. It's really cool.
Yeah.
I like how she touches the House of L symbol like Lois does in Batman v Superman after when they're standing on the balcony. Like,
Oh,
this
good
parallel.
one. Good one.
I like how the robot's like, well, where do you want to go? Like, and
I know.
it's like,
Find shelter, dude. We're screwed.
And I'm kind of glad that they went this route of like it was like Krypton's culture's own like mistakes for what led to their destruction, compared to like just like getting sucked in the orbit of the sun and then just blowing up that way.
Yeah, when my students watch this, they always think this is an environmentalist movie, which is very interesting
And
to
that's
me
what
because
Russell
this
Crowe
is
was
like
interested in
10% of the
that,
film,
too.
but they're all very focused on this
Yeah.
environmentalist theme, this idea that Krypton destroyed itself and that Earth like has a chance not to.
Yep. And that theme is definitely here.
Yeah, I remember seeing so many interviews where Russell Crowe like talked about that, and that was one of the things that drew him into the role.
Yep.
You know, I love this scene coming up because I love how like you have the thing of like him crashing on Earth into the cornfield, and it's like, okay, we've seen it a billion times, and then it immediately cuts to the present day, like immediately. So you skip over that entire thing we've
It's
done.
such a subversion of expectation. Like it's exactly
Yes.
the opposite of it.
Yes.
He
And
hits
that's
Earth,
awesome.
and I'm like, okay, well now we're gonna go like we're gonna find him.
Yep, see everybody
do
go,
all that
oh, okay,
rigmarole,
here we
and they're
go
like,
to the young
no,
childhood,
this is a
you know.
totally different movie.
And here we go to the latest episode of Deadliest Catch.
Pretty sure there was one cut scene of him as a baby.
God, I love
I
the
know,
beard.
yeah.
Why not put that beard back on him? Like honestly, leave him dead
I
for
know,
about
if
a
you're gonna have
month.
the mustache, just, you know.
You know, let him grow a whole beard, and then he could shave that off.
He grew a beard when he was in the comics.
What the
Well, that's the thing, is that my son was never dead, and everyone needs to remember that. He did not die. That's not how Kryptonians work.
He was just slow. Okay, can I just say, I love the look on his face. Everybody's always like, oh, he's always getting picked on. It's like they make the world just hate him. And it's like, look at his face right there. He's like, thanks, dude. That was cool. I mean, I didn't need it, but thanks. That was really cool. You know?
Oh, and Zach and Jason Momoa both confirmed this. The scene coming up with him in the water where he wakes up and the whales are there, that was his first interaction with Aquaman, technically.
Fetch me my binoculars.
I like that.
Greenhorn!
It's like literally his very first scene as an adult, and we see him saving people.
Yep. But that's my favorite. Oh, he never saves anybody.
And this whole thing, he's just standing there on fire.
This is Coast Guard 6510. We're gonna make one
I
more
need to
pass
go
and
right
we're getting
more.
out of here. Wait, I got some guys
I
in
mean,
Halifax.
Avoid literally tells later that the only way he can disappear is to stop helping people, which means that he was saving people all this time.
I know.
The choice of who we've decided to have him help too, like this situation where basically people on the boat were just like, those guys are dead, it's over. Is like sort of that idea where we just sort of write off certain kinds of deaths and we kind of say, well, this is inevitable. They worked on an oil rig. These guys are expendable. And to have Superman step in and be like, nah.
And one thing I love about this interpretation of Superman 2 is that, like, he's super strong, but it's still a struggle for him to lift this, you know? To keep it up long enough for them to get out of the way.
He's not breaking.
Yeah.
Oh, my thumb!
And just this contrast, and I think the coolest thing that I appreciate about the way Zach handles his male characters is this contrast of like just how masculine he's approaching this Superman. Like, he let Henry be natural as far as the hair. He's got a big old bushy beard. He's hanging out in like the man's world in a male-centered profession. And yet, like, then we flash back to just this sensitive kid. And all this vulnerability all of a sudden hits us. And we go straight from all of our expectations about what that masculinity is supposed to be when it looks like that, to this really vulnerable kid who struggles with other people and has a lot of really intense interior life.
Yep. Seriously though, like, this is such a beautiful example for anyone who's dealt with people who have sensory overload, or, you know, are really sensitive to all the noise and chaos around them, stuff like that. And there's a lot of that. And I mean, take away the X-ray vision, but truly, it's a beautiful way to have them go, oh my gosh, that's what they're experiencing. You know?
Yeah.
I get so mad at the teacher every single time. Like, I know it's a small town, but like, oh, it makes me mad. Like, from a professional standpoint,
letting all these other kids cluster outside that closet? How
but
shameful.
also like to yell at a kid who's like clearly in like weird distress. Like, something's wrong. You don't have to know anything about mental health to know that something's wrong. You know, why are you getting angry at this kid? First, stop. This is probably a kid who never speaks in your class.
Yeah. Most likely, it's somebody who doesn't know how to handle situations like this, and so when it happens, they're upset and not knowing how to handle it comes out in anger. Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's just that, like, from a professional standpoint, I'm just looking at it.
You're right.
You need to be better.
Right.
You need
to
be better.
That,
like,
but,
like, if it was Martha, you know, getting short with him, like, I would be fine. But, like, I don't know. I get mad at bad teachers in films, though. It's a thing.
I think that's fair.
I get whipped up because I'm like, no, you need to be better for those kids. Like, that's your job.
I love how she's just...
What's wrong with me, Mom?
She's so good.
That's
God,
such a
she's
heartbreaking
so good.
line.
And I love that line too. He recognizes that there's something weird, and she's like, "No, there's nothing wrong with you." And he's like, "No, there. You know, you can see right even from the very beginning, he doesn't feel like he belongs."
Yeah. You know, I'm so grateful that they never used an X-ray vision in order to show that he can see underwear of other people. Like, you know, for comic relief, it was never used for that purpose. I'm so grateful
like
for
one
that.
scene in Smallville when he's
Yeah.
I remember like Henry talking about this scene and how long he had to work out just for this one scene to expose
That's
his
what I always
abs.
think of.
I love it. I love it.
He's so
I love how
unnecessarily buff.
We're like, he's cut as hell.
Like, what the heck? Are you kidding me?
But honestly, that's exactly what like
boobs.
80s and 90s Superman looked like, from the chest hair to like.
Yep.
Just gorgeous.
Yep. I think my favorite is I heard people get all funky butt sick about the fact that he took other people's clothes. You know, and it was
if he's gonna run around town shirtless,
like that, and that's not gonna cause a traffic accident in the middle of downtown. You know, like.
What if I was
don't know.
driving?
They hold it to such amazing standards. It's kind of weird to me.
God, so many beautiful shots in this movie.
I know. They're all so beautiful.
Oh god.
Just the space, just the not every single frame is necessary. But like we have like these, they're extended. Like it's not like flash to the school bus, flash to another school bus. It's like hold on that school bus. Let us get there.
Okay, but seriously, this line, what kind of an insult is Dick Splash? I mean, really.
Oh my gosh, honey,
That was
like,
going
I
to be
hate to
his
say this
last
out loud,
word.
but I
That's
grew up in
amazing.
an era where people were making up crap like that. They were making up insults, and they were so lame and stupid and retarded, but that's what the kids did. So I don't know if that dates me or what, but yeah, like sadly,
Honestly,
I was like, yes, we're back to this again. It was totally familiar.
I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect actually for the ingenuity of Dick Splash. I just think that like it took thought. It took forethought to be like, what's the worst thing I could call this kid? Dick Splash.
I love this with the score right here.
Pretty much homage pilot. There and he so big an asshole in the water.
I missed all of that art too.
I love how we do this. We establish Lana like just so effortlessly, and we just like make her important in a moment, and then sort of move on.
Yeah.
Yep.
He saw what
Yep.
Clark did.
I know he did.
Here it comes, the most controversial
It was an act of
Moment.
God, Jonathan.
Oh, boy.
that made everyone butt hurt.
It's true. I think I love how Pete's sitting there on the couch though, and he looks not entirely happy to be there.
Oh
You know,
no!
and his
Pete
mom
told
is
his
just
mom
going
this
for it.
story.
Yeah.
He told his mom this story like, oh, it was kind of cool, and his
And
mom
she's
was like,
what? You know, yeah, drags him
She's
down
like
there, and
running
she's
around
like,
the house, and
"Oh,
he's like, no,
Mom,
Mom,
Exactly.
God, please, no.
Dude, he pulled me out of the water. Just leave him alone, you know.
We're just that elementary school understanding of sort of like we don't rat each other out. He's like, it's very clear from Pete's face that he was like, I'm not here to like rat. I wasn't like here to like rat him out.
Right? We talked about this. You have... Oh, Clark, you have to keep this side of yourself a secret.
I hate Kevin Costner, but I respect the hell out of this performance.
Me too.
He's got so much anxiety here that he brings in. Like
Well,
he
yeah.
is.
And
He's
it's beautiful
bugging.
because that's why his voice started to rise, and then he caught himself and lowered it again, and then you know, you have to keep this a secret. You're right. Right there is he's and
Yeah.
he's freaked out.
This is
he's completely
parenting.
freaked out.
This is
Exactly.
parenting as fuck.
Exactly.
Because he's feeling so many feelings right now, and he's trying to choose which ones are appropriate to
Exactly.
project at Clark.
Yep. But one of the biggest ones coming out is fear and serious worry that this is going to get out. The government's going to come take his kid. You know, he'll never see him again. I mean, this could go badly. And so, yeah.
And just trying to explain like the fallibility of human beings to your child and how relatable
true.
this moment is, to just like be constantly just apologizing to this tiny
Yeah.
little angel about
Yep.
how much your generation or your group of your race has
Yeah.
failed them.
How much the world sucks. And it's hard because you don't want to take their innocence too soon, but you don't want to leave them unprepared. And so you spend a lot of time couching your phrases and your words, trying to kind of get it across, but not exactly just be so incredibly blunt. Humans are awful and evil and stupid, you know? And so, like, it's really hard. And so I think that's half of why his maybe comes out like it does, half of why his speech comes out like it does. He's trying so hard to impress on him. This is a big deal, and it could be really scary. Humans are, you know, afraid of this kind of thing, and yet he doesn't want to just run out there and be, you know, against all humans, and, you know, so it's just, that is the most relatable moment for me as a parent.
Really?
It's like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, Jonathan, you having to try to explain this crap. You know, this
It's
is
also
impossible.
so
It's
beautiful
an
because
impossible
he's
situation.
modeling something very specific that Clark takes into as an adulthood, and that is uncertainty. And I think uncertainty is something we don't often give Jonathan, and that hurts me because I think that that's one of the coolest things that he taught him, is this idea of, like, you don't have to know the answer. You
Yes.
don't always have to have one.
Exactly. And that's entirely true.
Can I just say how much this young actor looks so much like Henry
Oh my
Cavill?
gosh, he's perfect, right? He's already perfect. And the lighting in this scene always gets me. It's just so pretty, the way that they've lit their faces and everything.
It's just the sweetest baby.
Can I just keep pretending I'm your son?
Oh, stop it.
And that's something too, like,
Dude,
They got the
that. I
adoption
feel like
narrative
it's
so
It's
right.
so beautiful.
Perfect.
and honestly, can I just say, like, that's the one thing about the Superman character, even as a fan of the character for years, you really forget that he is an adopted child. And you kind of just think of the kids like, oh, they're just his parents, like they're always been his parents. And not that they're not, it's, but to have that in a subtle way kind of explored, like, the reality of the fact that that's not his son. I mean, it is, but it's
Not his entire identity.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my god.
This scene, such a difference between a Joss scene and a Zack scene. Just,
I cannot believe that enough people get buttsick whiny about this scene and want to stick up for the guy sexually harassing a waitress. I don't understand it.
But just in the setup of this scene, like the local color and everything about this, like we just get so immersive in every single place, and we've just traveled all the way across the country. We've moved to an entirely different sphere, and we show that in really organic ways. Also, this actor is an amazing
He
choice.
plays a perfect douche.
He's brilliant.
he's also,
Everything
it's
I've
funny.
seen him in, he's blown me away, and I cannot
my gosh.
He was
See,
also
that
in,
look
like,
right there.
I recognized him immediately from that show Bates Motel that just ended. He was really good. Yeah, he's really good.
Yeah. And that's the thing, Cavill holds his own with this guy, and that's the thing that pissed me off the most after watching this movie, was everybody being like, Henry Cavill's not a very good actor, and it's like, no, Henry Cavill just pulled focus off of one of the best character actors in the business. He just did that. Like, this dude, he's got the chops. Like, he can do this. You just aren't paying attention to what he's doing.
And you want to bash.
And this, how did the fact that he took the time to do that is hilarious.
How?
Exactly.
Oh, poor guy has to get a new truck for her essentially harassing a woman. Boo-hoo.
Well, you know what the thing is, Clark knows he's Steven. So, this time you come back and harass her again anytime soon. Oh, look, here's a perfect way. I'm down.
And how it gets pointed out, too, is that the dude was probably lit up, and he's probably going to go drive a huge truck drunk anyway. Like, there's a huge number of causalities here.
Yep.
You're
You know what's funny? The first time I watched this movie, I didn't even realize that was Clark right there.
I know.
This is the thing that I miss, actually, in Batman vs. Superman, is his ability to blend. His ability to sort of, like, flatten into the background is so pronounced here. And I think half of why he makes this weird face when she addresses him is because he's so used to no one noticing him.
Yeah.
Like, he's so... He's like, how did you I've been invisible. Well, what are you looking at?
It's funny how Lois warns him that the bags are heavy, and he looks at them like not at all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll pretend that they're heavy. Fair enough.
They're
you know?
heavy, okay. Good note. That's what a human would do.
See, and all that right there in their conversation was just a matter of setting up her character. She's a reporter. She goes where it's dangerous. She's not afraid. This guy doesn't like the paper she works for, where he respects her articles. Nice. You know,
This
okay.
content is so good, and I think that it seemed like they wanted to flatten Amy Adams Lois into someone who was very affectionate and passive in Batman versus Superman, because everything she does like this is in the Ultimate Edition, but it's not in the theatrical cut. That line where she basically tells the new photographer to shut the fuck up.
I miss her.
I can't believe they cut that. That's everything. Like her dick measuring joke, absolutely important to the character.
Very important.
So that actor right there who just pointed out how old the ice was, that actor played Emil Hamilton in Smallville.
That's awesome.
Isn't that cool?
There's so many Smallville Easter eggs in this. And see, look, he just casually walks by and you
There
don't
he is
even
again.
notice.
I know. See, he just mows his path. Totally missed it the first time. You're right.
There's a bucket in the corner.
I've noticed him maybe like 3 or 4 viewings in sometimes. I'll be like, wait, is that Henry in the back?
Okay, can I just say?
And she's so magnetic, just like the way that Zach shoots Amy is amazing. But she's also just like a force of nature in every single scene she's in.
Loves to make her look good, you know.
Can I also just say, after seeing Justice League and everything, I really, really miss Christopher Maloney.
Yes. Thank you. I was going to mention that too. I love Colonel Hardy. He makes me laugh. And he's kind of a punk, you're right. He's kind of a putz bucket to Lois, stuff like that. And yet at the same time, it's awesome to watch their relationship kind of evolve through this film. I don't know, I like his character very, very much, you know.
It's good to have that tension and that adversity and sort of have like characters who are dissenting from what the audience is supposed to feel. So we can sort of measure ourselves as opposed to his character.
Yes, accordingly. And it's really, I love
except
how
like right here where I'm measuring myself opposed to Lois, and I'm like, Lois, what the fuck?
That right
Go
there,
back
I'm
inside.
Like, wow. And that is why she's Lois Lane, and I am not.
And I'm not.
Like, you know what? I'm gonna go back to my bed and get warm.
Yeah,
So,
I'm not about to walk on an
cold.
ice cliff.
He just told you that people die out there, and you're like, I'm gonna crawl in the ice tunnel after a complete stranger. No big
It's
deal.
a weird ice tunnel. You can see all the ridges on it and stuff like that. It's like, that's
melting.
not normal.
For
What is
real,
that? You
It
know?
might close on you. It might close on you like a membrane right now. You don't know.
Oh, I love how it's in the commentary though. Amy was like, "Okay, I learned that in that scene that waterproof socks are not waterproof." You know, like, they're not. You know, but then she talked about exactly that. You know, how that moment really helped her understand who Lois Lane is. Yeah,
The
she
audacity,
might, but she's getting to do this anyway.
One thing I noticed too, and I feel like we've talked about this before, is there always has to be some amount of clothing on Clark when he's not in his Daily Planet attire, where his chest hair just has to pop out.
They're so proud of their decision not to wax his chest. It's beautiful.
It even pops out of the suit in the movie, like his Superman suit, it pops out.
They kind of want, I feel like they kind of want him to be kind of about like hair. Like there's a lot of hair sort of centered imagery,
and I remember while they were promoting the movie, they teamed up with Gillette for this whole thing about how does Superman shave, and they never answered.
That was so funny.
They never answered it.
Of course
Nope.
not. I love this whole scene though. I don't know. It's just so awesome.
And look, one of the sponsors of the movie, Nikon.
And my favorite, buddy. Oh, too
That
much
was one of
product
the-
placement.
that-
I don't really care. That's real life.
It
People
was
use
whatever.
Nikon.
I didn't mind. I just thought it was kind of funny.
Oh, no, you're
why
right.
Why are you selling IHOP? And I'm like, their reputation is that their restaurants get destroyed. Like, I remembered I like pancakes, but you know.
Dude, I read a review
Or
of this
7-Eleven.
film after it came out when I was trolling the internet, where they described the heroically pancaking an IHOP, and I was like, dude, that's like the best phrase ever used for that thing. And I love her theme.
The one Supergirl Easter egg.
He has that little piano theme that runs in the background of all her stuff in this film. Oh, Hans is just lovely. And it's very inquisitive, very...
How cool would it be in the DCU, though, and I think this is really a game changer, is the idea that maybe that Supergirl has been like stealth on this planet for possibly thousands of years, and how does that change like the dynamic between her and Clark, and honestly to me make her a much more interesting character because she's there to be something other than Clark's little sister. Which like basically just makes her like Superman light. This would be like, she would probably be like sort of truly alien, and that would be kind of cool to see.
I remember, like, after that came out, and before Wonder Woman and before Batman v Superman, so many people were, like, theorizing that, like, she was the one who, like, started the Amazons and the Atlanteans. And I'm like, okay, that's a little bit of a stretch. Like, you don't have, not everything has to connect the dots in that way.
Yeah.
Oh, top 10 moment. I don't know what's wrong with me.
No, it's perfect though, because he's really, I don't know.
He's got that doctor thing. You know what it is?
Got, like,
that thing where he puts you at ease with a look. Oh my goodness.
Well,
I'm a sucker for that.
She nods first before he's allowed to open her clothes and see how interested she is. And
I've literally run this scene to teach my kids about consent. I've literally sat down and been like, what does consent look like? And they're like, they cannot figure out when, like, you have to literally take them through this and explain.
She nods right there, happens. Yep. Well, and it's just, I don't know. I came out of the film and I was like, he's got this old-fashioned gentleman thing quality to him. What is that? And my stepdaughter was like, you're right. And I'm like, he's just like, he's so decent. He's just, I don't know. It's like he's a throwback. You just don't find that now. But why is he a gentleman? I love it. So it's like, I don't know. I like it. And it just, like,
he goes from this moment where he's just like the scariest thing in the entire world. He's crushing a robot with his bare hands to just projecting that tenderness and projecting that sort of like earnestness through his face.
What Colonel Hardy and his team surmised was a
I was kind of bummed that they cut so fast. I'm like, wait, what happened? Oh, and then everybody, my favorite. Oh, you just left her out there. She would have frozen. Blah, 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 blah. It's like, honestly, the fact that they cut so quickly means you have no idea what happened. Like, there could have been, I don't know, there could have been all sorts of different things to lead them over there. There could have been, it's just, the problem is when people want a badge, they'll find reasons to bash.
But also, like, what do you do? Like, what are you supposed to do? I don't understand. Like, was you supposed to like drop her off with some folks at the base and be like, "Hi, I'm gonna go fly off with my people." Can we talk about her makeup here? Is anyone qualified to talk about her freaking makeup? Because holy crap. My God. Those eyes, I've been trying to achieve those eyes since I saw this shot. Like, what is happening? It's beautiful.
It is very beautiful.
And it's so sparse, too. Like, that's the thing, is they could have dolled her up for the office, and they were just sort of like, what does a businesswoman look like? What is, like, just a little bit of lip gloss, and those amazing eyes. Just perfect.
Yep. Oh my gosh, I love this though. And right here is where you see, I don't know, that grit that is Lois Lane. You're right, Nick. When you first start watching it, it's like, oh, it's Amy Adams, and it's like, no, it's not. That's Lois Lane. See, and he's like, never gonna happen. She goes,
and she gives her this edge that's not obvious. I think that's the coolest thing, is that, like, I love this Lois so much because she sort of projects this idea that she's very soft and this idea that she's very approachable, but underneath there's this really scary thing. Like, underneath there's this thing where she's just like knife sharp on a razor's edge. When she smiles at Perry, I think like that's like one of the most intimidating things I've ever seen her do.
And also, she just downed that scotch like it was nothing.
Recursive diagnostics complete.
Yeah.
Again, it's subversive, and I love that he kind of subverts a lot
and
of
it's a decision too. It's her throwing her weight around.
Yeah.
And this was one of my favorite scenes.
I love
it. To see you standing there, having grown into an adult. If only Lara could have witnessed this.
And the awesome thing about this whole thing too about Russell Crowe playing Jor-El is that Russell Crowe kind of helped get Henry into acting in the first place.
Yes.
Yeah, isn't that beautiful?
Like, it really comes full circle that way. I think it's amazing. And to have him, like, literally play his father.
Yep. It's truly awesome.
It's funny, Russell Crowe didn't even remember that Henry one day on set was like, "Hey, do you remember coming to like this school when like a long time ago? Like, you helped me give me advice, help me get my career in acting started."
Where do I come from?
He's like, wait, I think I remember that.
This is so important, and this scene gets overlooked by so many people who watch it. Like, I like the history lesson and everything, but the way that we open this scene with him really just being like, "What happened? Like, what's going? Like, I don't understand what went down here. Like, and who am I? And I have all these questions for like."
I love it so much.
Just basically trying to figure out like who I am at a basic level, and
The scout ship was one of thousands.
to actually get really concrete answers to that is so rare that it's kind of a magical gift for anyone who doesn't have those answers.
It is, and Jor-El's trying desperately to make sure that he knows both parts of his parentage. You know, every time he mentions his mom, he calls her Laura on purpose. You know, so that this is your mother's name. You know, your birth mother. This is who she is. She's not here, but she's still really important. You know, and I really, really appreciated that.
And I like how Clark is acceptable of his Kryptonian name, like hell, that's my name, and he doesn't throw it back. He accepts it that he has a name that his birth parents give him.
And the great thing about this adoption narrative on that level is that we have the adoptive parents actually preparing him for that. The adoptive parents setting the ground for that. You know, Jonathan actually saying like you have different parents who gave you a different name, and then for that name to just get delivered is so cool.
All Kryptonians were conceived in chambers such as this.
And one day you'll be revived in this.
Fulfill a predetermined as a worker,
but
warrior,
not before, you know.
Get used to that Kryptonian amniotic fluid.
You're gonna come back with the new CGI mouth.
The child dreamed of becoming something other than what society had intended for him or her.
So sick.
What if a child
I
aspired
like
to
how
operate?
to emphasize for him or her, like
Krypton's first natural birth.
both genders matter.
That's why we risk so much to
Well, I love how even though I still have my problems with Justice League, I love how that room, like the Genesis Chamber, has played a role in every single of Zack's movie.
Yes, and I do love that. I admit.
No matter how much we loved you.
Well, we have these objects that get lost from film to film sometimes in these franchises, and you always wonder where they went. And everything matters. Like every organic piece of Kryptonian technology that fell to Earth is being repurposed. And that's why I always expected us to sort of like segue into Brainiac, because everything that dropped onto Earth in that one event is everything that I think in Snyder's view we have to work with. So that's the suit we have, that's the technology we have, that's the the one ship that's that the entire thing is going to revolve around. I mean, like he even repurposed Zod's body to like fill up like those holes to make sure that like we were using everything.
I love that because that's really good storytelling to me when you can make it all continuous like that, because that's how it would fall in real life. You wouldn't just magically suddenly have this other thing.
That's when you can bring.
My favorite part about this dialogue is when Clark says, "No, you're just a child.
Yeah.
Not alone. That people of Earth are just as his family now, and
exactly.
It's
oh, look at that cape! Yes.
Okay,
I totally agree, Artyom. It's beautiful.
Okay, so I have a question for you guys. So, because obviously there was a design change going from Man of Steel to Batman v Superman, ever so slightly between the suits. Of the two suits, which design is your favorite?
You've grown stronger here than I've ever.
That's a toughie, actually.
I gotta say, I prefer this one.
Testing.
Okay.
And maybe it's because Cavill bulked up, and I like him slimmer, and that's just like that was like just reflected in the suit that he was just so much bigger. But like he almost had like that Captain America shelf boob happening, and I wasn't necessarily into that.
Okay. I like the talking about just the suit itself and not having his build, I like the Batman v Superman one better, just because I really love the inscription. I'm a geek like that.
Me too.
So, but I still love this one. Probably.
It was the Joseph Campbell quote that was like engraved into the suit the second time around, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The best scene
Uh,
of in the entire superhero comic book movie genre. Like, I love the flight so much.
I was gonna say, I love this.
Ideal to
I
strive.
love this.
With the
This is
voiceover
the only
too.
film
someone
I saw
just
in the theater,
someone just
and then
hosted a
went home.
Twitter thread where people just talked about what the flight scene meant to them, and it was so cool to see like the diversity of reactions and how everybody takes something and brings something different to the emotion here. And I think that's amazing. This wind-up is my favorite part, though, to be
I love
totally
it.
honest.
It's so beautiful.
And
And
entire
this
quote
right
is-
here.
Yep.
Oh my
This-
god,
I say this is my
that's so
favorite.
fucking cool.
And
The rocks
this
are like
quote
everything.
by Jarrell is from Grant Morrison's All-Stars.
That's awesome.
We're taking his physics so seriously.
I know.
Exactly.
And that
I
freaking
love it.
sonic boom right there. Oh
Yep.
yeah,
And the
do
old
it.
school flying sound in the background.
Music is so awesome.
Oh my god.
And one thing I like about this, because in the soundtrack version, there's like the violins in the background. I feel like are missing from the one on the actual track. But I think this scene it just feels so epic and awe-inspiring. And it's just a scene where he's flying, but there's so much more to it. It's just.
It's so beautiful.
It's really like sort of like pulling out the stops and being like, this is a Superman movie. Like,
Yeah.
don't
Yep.
forget.
Yep.
Oh, there's a smile.
I love it.
And Zach's use of light throughout this entire film is so cool. I mean, when he and Jonathan are talking in the barn, there's that tiny spot of light far off behind Jonathan's shoulder. You know, here he's flying and it's just off the side of his face. I mean, the use of light.
Oh, we love
I
that
could write
shit.
a whole essay about this. There it is. I love that.
You start with the urban
Oh, it's so
I
awesome.
love this. I love how she's the one who finds out his secret.
Oh my gosh, I was so happy. I was like, oh my gosh, they made her impressive. They made her freaking talented and smart and freaking determined, and I love her.
And you know, it's interesting that we first saw how Clark discovered his origin, and right after that we see how Lois discovers him.
Yep.
Like, this little parallel.
I like how Pete Ross is just a manager at IHOP now.
Yep.
I'd like to talk to you about an accident that occurred when you were younger. A
The,
school bus
the fact that they cut so fast from her asking him to her pulling into the Kent house
I
really
know.
tells me that he's like, I don't really want to talk about this. And if you want to ask questions, then I suggest you go talk to, Martha Kent. Honestly, I guess that's all I can come up with, or that she's saying, what about this Kent kid? Well, I don't really have anything to say about that. I really feel like Pete just clammed up and gave her nothing.
Yeah.
And it was like, all right, fine, I'll just go find somebody
That's
else,
the coolest thing about the solidarity of the folks in Smallville is that, like, we kind of have this realistic expectation of Clark kind of being an open secret, and everybody feeling really closed-mouthed about that
Yes,
secret.
really
I mean, it's first of all
Zach
so small
established that
town
too, yeah.
and so true to the nature of that. Like, sort of like,
Yep.
this is ours. He's
Yeah.
one of
Where are you
us.
from?
I love it. I've been meaning to write a story forever about Lois's journey right here, because they bump over it so fast. I'm like, dude, we should totally expand that. But I could totally see Martha also just being like, if you want to talk to somebody, go talk to my husband. He's down at the end of the road, And she's like, oh man. She
I love the
sent me to
baseball
a
cap.
gravestone.
Me too.
As like a precursor to like sort of shitty disguises.
And I love
Like, Clark, what's this doing exactly?
I know.
She can
I
see
love
your face.
how all
Like,
his
what's it
clothes are
doing?
baggy, though, at
And
this
he's like,
point.
no. Like, this is totally a disguise, you guys. Don't worry about it.
I love how all his clothes, though, when he's trying to disappear, are all slightly bigger than he actually is, so that they don't fit him really well, and they don't emphasize the muscle that's underneath.
Like, I know I brought this up earlier, but I love how it's like you can tell, like, even like the wardrobe designer, like, someone's whispering to them, chest hair, chest hair.
I was just gonna say, I noticed that.
Like, what normal guy just like flaunts his chest out like that? Like, no one. It's fucking Superman and his hairy chest, and they're like, yeah, that's what it is.
Gotta make sure that shows,
It's like my clothes are constantly falling off, guys. I can't help it. I'm just beautiful.
So maybe our best isn't good enough anymore.
You know, and oddly enough, even though Henry's like in his like 30s or whatever, I feel like he plays like a young like late teens Clark right here really well.
I agree. His hair
I think it could have been a little bit clearer. I think this is something that really messes people up in terms of chronology, and I don't blame them because I think that he's still got that like giant man body, and it's hard to read him as a teen, except for his attitude, except for what Henry brings to the moment, which is like just him being kind of a little prick.
He's being a teenager.
And also, I think they wanted to just take the opportunity to give Henry at least one scene with Kevin Costner. I think that's part of it as well.
I would agree with that. I love this.
Well, this is the most important decision in my opinion, and I think I've written about this at great length. This is the first thing that I wrote about in Man of Steel. I think this is the most important decision that Snyder makes, is everything that happens in this scene. The way that he composes this scene is the most important thing that happens for me in the DCU.
I love how it plays though, because you can read it in everything they do. The minute it starts happening, you know, Jonathan's like, take your mom to the overpass. He knows Clark is going to go out there and try to help people. If he doesn't give him an assignment, and the assignment is most definitely his mother. And he knows he'll never fail him there.
Like,
you take him to the underpass, get him out of the way. And then he goes to help, you know, and then, oh no, I was in the car. And he goes, I'll get him. No, and hands him the kid. It's always a matter of here, take somebody else and take care of them. I will go into the danger because you are not allowed. You know, and it really, he's doing everything in his power to keep him out of this.
That's one thing too, like, and especially with the marketing of the movie, like, I had an idea that they would kill off Jonathan, but it's just watching this scene is so heartbreaking because it's not the usual like, oh, if it was a natural death, so there's nothing he could have done to stop him.
Look at him calculate.
Exactly.
It's so
he's
fucked
thinking,
up.
and then it's I'm gonna go, and he goes,
like,
he knows
okay,
exactly what he's thinking.
how much time do I have? How many people are watching?
Exactly.
I can do this. And Dad says no. It's fucked up. Oh my god.
It's perfectly.
It's ruining my life all over again.
He says no, and then he stands there, and that's moment of hesitation, you know.
And the score too, and you can see this cut right here, just
because I trusted him.
You can
Henry
see it's still a
Cavill
struggle
kicking
for
it
him
in the
to
fucking
even.
ass.
That I had to wait.
That is acting.
The world was not.
You can see the tears in his eyes. He doesn't like talking about it. And also, to have that scene right here, and then to fast forward like 4 years later to have Flash and Cyborg disrespectfully digging up his grave right there in that same moment. Like,
that was weird. And it felt like a rewrite moment because I was like, it's too weird with whole bringing up the fist bump and everything. I was like, this doesn't seem like it's completely organic to what was supposed to be, you know. So
I just think like you have to let characters feel their feelings, and I think that what's happening when two characters are digging up the grave of a national hero is a totally different feeling than what they put in that scene. Oh my god, her hair and her makeup, my god, I'm dying.
She's so
Why does she look like this in the office all the time? How does anybody get any work done?
I love her
Like
relationship
Lois walked
with Perry,
by.
though.
Oh, I gotta start over.
They're both so awesome because she's like, no, it was smoke, and he's like, you know, like, oh
like
gosh,
he
I
doesn't
love
buy it.
the two of them.
All
These are
of
some really
all
awesome
of the
actors.
resistant mouth work that she does, all of this like this sassy shit where she's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you the whole time.
But see, on top of that,
Look at
it's
that
also,
mouth, look at the fuck you mouth. I love
it's
it.
almost a tell because she's not talking. And she knows, but she's not going to say it, so it's almost.
She's also not talking, so I'm sure Perry's like, "Oh no, Lois is silent. Something's wrong."
It's my favorite. See, thank you, Perry. Thank you. This is one of my favorite lines, simply because it was like, "Oh my gosh, they're actually going to go there and go
Perry's
with the fact that
cynicism
it's not just,
is such an
hero."
asset.
Well, and it's perfect because it's the perfect precursor to look, see what happens, and Batman v Superman. We go, "Yep, okay," you know. The Kents had a point. Perry had a point. You know, these people have a point when they say, you know, I don't know that the world's going to be like, dude, how awesome, an alien among us. Come on over, buddy. You're my friend now. You're my hero. You know, you just don't know that that's going to happen. Look at you. I love these guys. And he picks her up when he hugs her. I think that's my favorite part.
Oh, give me a chance to write a freaking Martha Kent movie. I will do it.
Right?
I love everything about her.
Oh, they're so cute.
They do so much with her in such a short space.
I know. And I was amazed. I'm like, what? Oh. It's just
like the attitude and how like just sort of
she's a friend. Oh.
Quirky and and also like
what?
You have a friend?
People.
This
I've
is
never
very
heard of
exciting.
fucking
This
talk
is
to me.
very exciting, Clark. I'm so happy for you, and also this is terrifying. Goddamn.
See, it's the perfect adoptive story,
She's
because that is
beautiful.
exactly the reaction. That's awesome. That's wonderful. I'm happy. I'm a little freaked out, but I'm not going to tell you because I want you to be
Scared
happy,
out of my depth.
He's like, dude, I already know,
It's nothing. When you were a baby, I used to lay by your crib at night, listening to you breathe. It was hard for you. You struggled. And I worried all the time.
You were worried the truth would come out.
No. The truth about you is beautiful. We saw that.
Look at the surprise on his face. It's gorgeous.
See, exactly. He's like,
I thought I
because
understood
yeah, and she's like,
your
no,
orientation
no.
to this, and she was like, no. This is something totally different.
Yep.
I'm worried they'll take you away from me.
I'm not going anywhere, Mom.
Lies.
Wow! I love these guys so much. They make me so happy. It's always at this point I go, oh my gosh, we just barely get introduced to him this far.
Like you have a
through.
scene,
Okay.
you have an establishing scene in this movie where Superman is literally hugging his mom, and people are like, not my Superman. Like, what are you talking about? Like, he loves his mommy, he loves Lois, he's, I mean, like, what more do you want?
It's because he's softer, it's because he's just not as huge, rabid, masculine as they expect. I don't know, it's weird.
As of yet.
That's the thing, is that, like, I just feel like those people, I don't know what they're watching, quite honestly.
I
I've
know.
never seen an interpretation that has been like, oh, well, Superman doesn't love his mom, and, consistently lets Lois die. Like, what?
Yep.
Nope.
Does anybody know where we keep the toner cartridges?
That is an alert. That's an emergency for me,
all
Lois.
over the
I don't know where this
See
is
this?
housed. Half the time it's because we don't have any. This is also what I truly felt was missing from Justice League. It was the fact that Zack has always shown us
The world
people on
stops.
the outside experiencing this as well, and their kind of, perspective, not just Clark, not just the heroes, he's always made that a part of these films, and it was just very lacking from Justice League, except for Everybody Knows, which we all know is him, and then, after that, nothing.
One thing that I took for granted from these films that I think that Justice League threw into sharp relief was the respect that is paid to what Midwestern culture is. To what Kansas is, to what Kansas looks like. And I feel like the Justice League reshoots were so much more stereotypical, even to the point of what kind of dialogue he was putting in Martha's mouth.
If you miss by a dime, I'm like, she's
yeah,
never
and that like, hope is like your car keys line.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
no, that's, like, what you're looking at Hit, you're looking at Podunk, and that's not Kansas. Kansas is the middle of the freaking state. Like, Kansas is the middle of the freaking country. It's literally the middle. So if you're talking about the middle of the country, you're talking about something that's kind of nil, that's kind of all American, for lack of a better term. And the Justice League totally misses it culturally.
This whole thing is so cool because it really is this is the First Contact story, and it is like one of the best ones out there. Everybody all over the world is like, what?
Knowing that this just doesn't just happen in Metropolis, knowing that we think about literally
the entire
everybody.
world is discovering this. I love it.
RSS feeds.
This is like the best part. I love the horror element. How transition starts and how the entire world witnesses it, because most of the time in movies when an alien invasion happens, it's shown like it happens in USA and nowhere.
For some time, your world has sheltered one of my citizens. I request that you return this individual.
And another deeply low V-neck just for him.
Shut up. There's nothing wrong. I love the lighting.
You will have made efforts to blend in.
It feels almost like the whole scene almost sets up like a horror movie.
It's this cool thing where like clearly the technology is being run with the electricity from the rest of their surroundings, but it incidentally makes everything super scary because all the lights go down.
It's perfect.
But also, I also kind of feel like Zod
like
being a
his
little extra that
pilot
way.
mask with the funny little tube hanging out of it, which makes him look even worse, like he doesn't look like human on there. It's kind of cool. Anyway, sorry, Nick, go ahead.
No, I was just...
watch this world
I was saying, I feel like Zod's being a little extra as well,
Oh, yeah.
Just be a little more dramatic.
Yep, I need more cheese in this, so I'm going to go.
And it was cool that when he was transmitting this to the entire world,
it was translated to various languages.
In their language.
Truly means there's no harm, then he'll turn himself into his people.
And I love how he straight up says his name, Kal-El. The entire world knows his Kryptonian name now, and so that's why when people get all funky about them using it later, how would they know that? That's why I heard somebody, how would Diana even know his name? Oh my gosh, the entire world knows his name. They all know his Kryptonian name, guys. Come on.
Yeah, well, all these, oh my gosh, I can't even believe, probably where was Diana? I never thought about that before.
London, Paris, thinking?
Definitely, probably near a screen of some sort. She's a sophisticated lady.
I'm sure she was watching this for a while, and it fits the narrative. I love how it fits the narrative. That she's like, I'm just going to sit and watch this for a while and see what's going on, and then finally it's like, I can't do this anymore. So.
And that's the thing about people saying, she would never abandon Earth and she would never walk away from protecting Earth. And it's like, okay, guys, then where was she? Then where was she during this? She was obviously sitting it out, and that's okay because, we screwed over her entire gender. She's got a right to be pissed.
Well, and on top of that, it's like she's watching, so okay, whoa, there's an alien here. Interesting, didn't know that. Okay, so what do we do? Oh, look, he surrenders himself. Okay, oh, look, there's a battle going down a continent away from me. Well, it's not like she can't get there, but it's a matter of, I really think that it all happened so fast, she didn't have any time to get into action, and she was waiting to see what was going to happen.
Well, also, I think that this is the thing, is that, I think a lot of the new Wonder Woman fans are really undercutting the importance of Superman when they talk about this situation, because
Get up, Kent.
This is what he's supposed to accomplish. He brings her out of hiding. He inspires Wonder Woman.
Exactly.
And that's okay for him to do because he's Superman. And if you don't, if you don't have that investment in Superman, maybe you don't understand that. But it's a super important thing that for Clark to be able to do. Give him this one thing. He's not really gonna have anything else in this franchise from here on out. He's not the center
punching
anymore.
people, So and I agree. It's okay for him to have this thing. Oh man. See, and everybody's like, oh look, another scene of him getting bullied, but they don't understand this scene. This scene is not about him being bullied. This scene is about him holding back. This entire conversation he has with his father is about him holding back and learning, that with his immense strength comes a lot of having to really think carefully before he acts,
But also just the cool thing about Jonathan acknowledging that damage can be done to him, and this understanding of Superman as a very vulnerable character, but in a way that you don't necessarily consider. Because you're not thinking about things in terms of emotional damage, in terms of emotional trauma.
Yes.
He basically was like, did they hurt your feelings?
Exactly.
And that's hot. What a cool question for a father to ask a son.
Well, and it segues perfectly into this. Everybody's like, I don't understand the flashbacks. They don't make sense with the rest of the narrative. They don't? Are you kidding me? He just told him, and he's to decide what kind of man he's going to be, good or bad. And right here, he's wrestling with, do I give myself up to them because it might save Earth? Might? I'm not even sure it will. But, oh my gosh, you guys, this isn't brain surgery. It's not that hard. And I don't care what anybody says, that Christ behind him is beautiful, so shut up.
Agreed.
Yes, the Christ-like imagery is there. Get over it. So
I was talking about this the other day, and it's just sort of like there's the Christ allegory is just a really great mythical image to transfer onto this story. And we're talking about martyrdom in this series.
Exactly.
And he's just the most relevant martyr, the most widely understood icon. It's just using that language.
Yep. And I gotta say, I kind of love Father, you know, like, I don't know what it is. I just like him.
It's so much. It's so much strength on his part.
Yeah, so much strength because he swallowed
her,
but he
didn't freak out. You can see that he's freaked out.
He still gives really good advice. So.
He's still like, okay, well, how would I deal with this if I wasn't freaking out on a basic level?
Oh, look.
Oh my God, this shot.
I always love this shot.
Me too.
I'll surrender, but only if you guarantee Lois's freedom.
I love the doubt that's created by this him being up in the sun and the way that it sort of obscures his image and obscures his face.
Yeah.
Yep.
And it sort of reflects the feeling of the people on the ground who are like seeing him as larger than life.
Yes.
You let them handcuff you.
And people say this movie doesn't have a sense of humor.
I love this scene.
I love it so much.
They're like floating.
I was equally mad. I was so glad that Lotus said something because I was like, "This is terrible.
I love
How
this.
dare you guys?" It's just to embarrass. Like it's just embarrassing. It's just a weird control measure.
On my world.
Sorry, the rest of this scene is so cute.
Oh, well, here it's an S.
Bringing that practicality into his world, just
and
being
his
like,
face,
pretty.
the way he takes it. Oh my gosh, you're flirting all over the place. You guys, you're in medical custody.
Every time someone asks about the S, you can't give them a 20-minute speech.
I know.
You have to figure out what you're going to say to them, sweetheart. And he's like, "Oh yeah, I guess I probably can." Like, hand them a copy of Play-Doh and be like, "Well, let's talk about it."
One thing I want to bring up too, I'm not sure if I brought this up with Katie and I's commentary from a few months ago.
You can't expect us to not
this movie
take
deliberately
waits
to
kind of
say the name Superman until like the very, very, very end. You know, like she was very deliberately.
I love it too.
And also, this movie also is supposed to deal with some sort of like realism, right? Absolutely. How ridiculous is the name Superman? I mean, really.
Right?
Like, it's so easy for us to say Superman because he's part of a pop culture. He's an icon. But in these terms, would you really call this alien Superman?
Yeah.
I mean, it's if you deconstruct it, it actually gets really interesting. And I think that like the origin stories that use it as like Lois just like Superman, and then someone accidentally makes an editorial mistake and calls it Superman is a really good one. I think that's a great way to explain it in a modern context. But then also, if you deconstruct it to Nietzsche, if you take it down to the Ubermensch, if you take it down to, actually looking at the Superman as a paragon or an ideal, or sort of like the ideal human evolution, then it all of a sudden becomes like really resonant, and you can see how a journalist would get there, versus just being like, yeah, that man's super.
Yep. This scene, see, look at all they do with no dialogue.
So good.
And they reach for each other's hands and the music, and I'm just like, I love these two. Like right there, they had me. They had me forever.
And maybe it's my X-Files background, but OTPs that hold hands, my God.
I loved it. I love that she reached for it, and then he took it, and it's so beautiful. I love that she didn't want to go, and I will say previously,
the one that reaches out.
Exactly. The holding back on the Superman name is really cool because we talked about how in this film, like, he's still on this journey to becoming Superman. He's not even there yet, and so like it's the precursor to this is what he could be, but he's not there yet. So we're going to interrupt Lois and make sure that doesn't come out. It doesn't come out to the end. So and I love that because it's just going in line with the story. He's not Superman yet.
And I love how
I like the idea of Lois sort of trudging around this camp being like, yeah, Superman said, and everyone being like, what?
That is kind of cool.
and I love the beetle design of that ship right there. I think it makes it even look even more alien.
Yes, it's very organic. Yep. And I loved how they talked about that in the art of the film. No metal. Everything was supposed to be, no shiny metal, no, it's all supposed to be like bone or fossilized or organic or let's go at it totally different than what the classic quote outer space look is, and so I really loved it.
General Zod,
she is fantastic.
Yep.
Oh Lord.
The way she looks to him like down and up and is almost like before she talks to him, I'm like, oh man, she's got so much character.
Just the decision to put lipstick on her is just so powerful to me.
And eye makeup, yep. She's awesome.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. You know, it's funny. I went to go see this movie the first time with my best friend, who's gay, and by the end of this movie, he was like, Feora was so fucking hot.
I love him. I don't care what you tell me. Right there, she's like, ooh.
I love their tension too.
Feora. Confusing sexualities.
Yep.
For life.
Feora and Hardy is cool. Somebody was like, I just watched Man of Steel. What's up with the sexual tension between her and Hardy? And it was like, what? Does everything always have to come down to sexual tension? Right there are two combatants looking at each other going, I don't like you. Like, he stands up to her right there and tells her to just basically go to hell. And she's like, you're on my list, and I'm going to kick your butt first when we take over this planet.
She just there. It's so interesting too because she is such a Kryptonian supremacist, and her begrudging sort of like edge of respect for him is probably so disquieting to her because it really doesn't make sense with her worldview. This idea of like she sort of starts to sort of be like, well, wow, like humans are terrible, but like this guy is interesting.
But here is an enemy worthy of battling, Here's someone that I don't just crush, that I can actually go to battle with, and I don't see that as sexual tension. I see that as really awesome tension in terms of character. And I think often people kind of mistake that. It's not all sexual, guys. They don't want to bone each other. They want to fight till one of them's dead. That's not safe,
If anything, I feel like there's sexual tension between...
Unless they're really kinky, which is
ideally.
If anything, I feel like there's sexual tension between Feora and just the audience.
Stranger to our ways.
And who?
Feora and who?
In the audience.
Oh! Everybody is, gang. I would agree with that.
I
love this scene too. So funny.
I love this because I feel like this is the one.
We just immediately turn Clark really helpless in Lois's presence.
Well, like, why is he so friendly? It's, oh man.
Like, do you bleed? And Lois knows the answer to that question like firsthand.
Whatever's happening to him has to run its course.
And that's the one thing I love about this.
He's so beautiful here on the ground. It's so confusing.
Yes,
I love how in this version of the character they really explore the actual physics of being from another world and not being exposed to its atmosphere properly.
Yes.
Because in so many instances it's just just turn on red sunlight and no powers, that's it.
The air composition and the whole idea of radiation seeping into his cells and all of that stuff is so great. And this idea of just baby tiny little infant asthmatic Clark Kent ruins my life. Just ruins it. I can't talk about it. I'm getting teary.
I love the realism of it. It's so, that's part of what got me into this movie so hard and so fast. It was like, my gosh, they're treating it so real. I love it. I'm so happy.
Freed us.
And here, even, I love this. Feora's a badass soldier, but she's allowed to weep for her world. She's a complete and total character, 360 degrees. She's not just a ball-crushing woman. She's a woman who wept for her planet,
What's so important, though, is that we have the whole room of that whole platoon of soldiers that have been convicted, and Feora is the one soldier that hits her knees. This is something that we get about Feora, which is that this is more important to her than anyone else. She had the most potent reaction.
And Zod understands because he puts his hand on her shoulder, and that is totally a camaraderie way of I understand your pain, I understand what you're going through. We're gonna survive this, and we're gonna figure it out, and it's just it's really awesome.
Yep.
That's good character, guys. That's
they
good.
Need to bring her back.
I know, right?
They could do so much with that. She could just become a crazy, angry, avenging angel.
Even a world engine.
Okay, seriously, but how much do those suits look like Buzz Lightyear?
Detected the distress beacon, which you triggered when you accessed the ancient scout ship. You led us here, Cap. And now it's within your power to save
Look at
what
this
remains
dickhead.
of your
Look at
grace.
this dickhead put more things on poor Clark Kent's shoulders. Please stop. I hate when people do this. I get mad every single time it happens on Smallville. You let us hear Cal. No, he didn't. Leave him alone. He is a baby.
Your father stole the registry's codex and stored it.
You know that he's adding that to his list of sins. He's just tallying it up. He's saying, well, okay, there's another thing I can feel guilty about. Awesome.
On Earth.
I see it's for an exact purpose.
This pitch is almost as bad as Ares' pitch to Diana.
Yep.
Not quite, but it just makes no sense. Like, it just sort of like, he's like, well, what if we turn the Earth that you like so much, that you obviously have idealized, into a smoking crater? And he's like, no, thank you.
I don't think he realizes that he's idealized it. No. This is Zod going to do. I feel this kind of loyalty to my people. Why don't you? You should.
I don't know, because like he drops him in his own mind landscape, and his own mind landscape is this beautiful open field of Kansas, and he's wearing a fucking Royals t-shirt. Like he's the embodiment of Kansas in his brain. In his mind, that's Clark Kent.
Oh, totally.
Which is so cool.
But Zod's not seeing that, because all he's seeing is, you should be loyal to
No, he
your race,
misread her by a mile.
Yes,
Not as bad as Ares misread Diana, but almost.
But it's awesome, because you can totally see Zod's, the way he was born, being different from Clark. That's like how he thinks, and he can't unthink that, because he was made to be that way. He was made to think these things. He was made to have that unquestioning loyalty to his race, no matter what shape.
That's interesting too. I wonder if he even has the capacity to understand Clark's point of view, just because Clark he's the first person in centuries to be not genetically engineered, not having that stuff
to be able to choose
built into his brain.
Fascinating, And I love that whole moment where Clark truly realizes, okay, this is the guy that killed my father, and then he says, and there's not a day that goes by that I don't regret it. I'll still do it, but I regretted it. That kind of dynamic, perspective is really, really cool.
This guy, this Kryptonian, he played Lex Luthor in season 10 of Smallville, the clone of Lex Luthor.
Oh, really?
Yep.
That is awesome. That makes me so happy. Every actor that's been on every Superman anything. Let's talk to her.
There's our girl Samantha Joe.
What's up? I love her. Can I just say?
Oh, yeah.
She made an awesome badass Kryptonian too.
Just a little extra, just like, why do you have to throw her into the cell? Because
they're beneath us, and it really does speak a lot. And right there, then even Lois is like, all right, you know what? I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm just going to try something, because it can't get worse than this,
Yep.
That's the thing, is the power of
Hey!
Hi.
The power of her curiosity here.
Yes.
Like, just sort of her being like, well, we'll see.
I spent like 10 minutes talking about this, didn't I? But this is why, like, seriously, it's just like, I'm just going to make a decision, and I'm going to follow through with it,
Yep.
I have harder times with that. I sit and think forever and ponder all the possibles, and oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
There's Drew.
There he is.
Dan White.
I get so bogged down in makeup in this movie that I just sort of lose the plot sometimes. Her lip color, my god, it's perfect.
All right, so Fatima, we're right at about 120 or an hour and 23 minutes in, almost an hour and 24 minutes. So we're at the part where Drell and Lois are in the one part of the ship.
Okay, I gotta say,
that's one of my favorite times. Like,
in his eyes when he talks to her about designing the ship and he can change it. I don't know. He looks so delightedly happy.
I know.
We're gonna change this ship around. Okay, let's do this thing. Also, I consider you a good fit for my son. Okay, moving on. He just seems really happy.
I just like when they're floating in space later, and he's like, "Go, mate," and I'm like, "Stop! Stop! Please don't. Leave your son alone. Let him choose."
Did you do that?
Yes.
Special for him. You know what I mean? That's really, and he's So I'm gonna make sure that you know that she's gonna put that down.
I love this guy just like backs out of the room. He's like, nope.
No, bye.
Clark's luck right there, dude.
Guys.
With your bullcrap.
Yeah.
Do you think that in whatever movie for Man of Steel or Man of Steel 2 or Superman 2 or whatever it is, do you think they'll find a way to bring Zor-El back?
Jor-El? I don't know. I'd love to see Russell
I think
Crowe
he's
again.
real done.
Yeah, I would love it, but I don't see it.
I wish they could reverse engineer a way to bring in a Laura hologram. That would make me really happy.
That would be really cool.
Especially since Clark has never seen his mother, and that hurts my feelings.
Lois is an army brat too, so it doesn't surprise me.
Look at this hot shit!
You go, Samantha.
I don't know, it's like now after like seeing like all this stuff about Samantha, I almost like don't want to root against her because she's so cool.
I know. You're on.
I know.
Is it true what Zod said about the Codex?
Strike that panel.
He's like, be dramatic.
We wanted you to belong.
I love the unquestioning obedience, though.
So that one day, when the time was right,
and
you could be the bridge between two peoples.
I also feel like that strike means obliterate. Like he's like, oh, just like he's not like, okay, I'll just tap it. He's like, whoa, fuck this wall in particular.
You can save all of them.
Now go make babies.
Seriously, is that not what's happening? He's
right
like,
right here. Kind of next level awesome.
Sacrificed on the altar of his father's ambition. Quite honestly.
Everything about it's perfect. I love how he lands. I love how he lowers himself. I love how she realizes he's there and just waits for him to do something. I love how he punches the thing away, and then how he turns the protector from the flames. I'm like,
maybe something's wrong with me, but like romance. That was so fucking romantic.
Ever. Okay.
By the way, have you ever noticed that when Clark destroys the wall on the ship, he's the only one who is affected by the physics, but Jor-El isn't because he is a hologram. So.
Oh my gosh,
yeah.
I never even noticed that, but you're right. You're totally right. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Attention to detail is important.
It's okay, Lois. They did the same thing to me.
Speaking without words.
I just love this idea that she hits ground and the first thing she's like, the one thing that I was supposed to be responsible for, this one big secret, and I fucking blew it. What the hell? This is terrible.
They already got it.
It's already so heavy on her, and it's so awesome.
Yep, love it. And
also, like,
space changes. Like I've said this
danger, Mom's heartbeat has risen. It's time to go.
But I love that.
Check on
like
Mom.
He doesn't even have to turn to the. This is what I was talking about with Justice League. Justice League, he would have told her, "My mom's in danger" or whatever, and taken off, to keep the audience abreast. And instead, his whole face just changes and he leaves immediately. And then he'll go, "Oh wait, Martha's in trouble." Okay, that's really
like
cool.
He can come back. He can come back and tell her what happened. Like this is a freaking emergency.
You don't always have to spoon feed it to the audience, and they've gotten complacent. The attention's gotten complacent. We've seen it now, and it really frustrates me because.
I just think so much of it is not paying attention to Henry's performance because he looks positively panicked in that moment.
Exactly. Totally agree.
Where has he hit you?
God. What about Kryptonians and trouble? Honestly, I was like, yes! Get him again!
yeah.
Same.
Everybody
poor
had a
7-Eleven.
Eleven. But you know what? They came right through the doors. I don't think they hit anybody on the inside. There's no blood, and it was the gas tank that exploded. So actually, they haven't caused any casualties.
I mean, also, if you're expecting Superman to be able to, you know, anticipate those casualties and to be able to anticipate, you know, everybody who's in danger, then you can damn sure be sure that he anticipates which buildings are habited and which buildings aren't before he busts Zod through them.
On just what I wanted to see. Without your helmet, you're getting everything. And it hurts.
I still can't believe that.
I love how vicious they let him get here.
I know. I love how much they made him a person, you know? Yeah, I know what that feels like.
He's so mad and he feels so righteous about Zod going through that pain. He's like, remember that? Yeah, I remember that pain. Fucking sucks, doesn't it? Don't mess with my mom. I'm gonna kill you.
Right here, I love how they stare at each other. They totally, Zod's pissed. He does not want to stop this fight, but, you know, I gotta go recoup from him. And right there, Clark's like, should I go after him? Do I not go after him? I'm not really sure. Holy crap, there's two people and they want to have a Western showdown with me. Okay. So I guess I'm doing that now, you know. I love it, though. I love everything about it. You know, all the
like
people
the old
running
Western
showdown. The two sides, the two people. Oh, it's a gunslinger showdown, baby. This is awesome.
Here's the thing, like that shot, the light that bounce that we're getting off the symbol here just doesn't seem to happen again.
Nope.
With other suits, and I think that it's such a cool like effect in terms of like what fabric they specifically use.
And observed the beings we're about to engage in close proximity.
They are
I never paid attention to that, but that's
yeah. Because I noticed in certain shots,
I don't think you have to turn up the colors when you have that sort of like really cool fabric.
It's true.
Because
I never
it's
needed
so
the
bright.
colors.
That S is so bright.
See, look at it. The cape and the hand fist. It's the Western showdown.
Thunder 1-1, telling 3 targets.
What the heck, man? I'm trying to
are you serious?
I love it.
If anything, they cause more damage than Superman does.
They did. They came
Isn't that the craziest thing about this scene? The military wipes out Smallville. The literal military presence wipes out Smallville, and everybody's like, he flattened Smallville. Like, no, he actually did like 10% of the damage here.
Exactly.
Like, if you bomb the streets, people are gonna die.
Yeah.
Okay, this is pretty. Look at the blood right here. Watch.
I will tell you, it took me at least 3 or 4 times before I realized that was kind of, you know, I thought I was picking up on the plane. So yeah, but you're right. That was pretty brutal.
Oh shit.
Save anybody. Oh,
You and me both.
Notice how like every major establishment that's sponsored in this movie, whether it's Sears, 7-Eleven, or IHOP, they all get destroyed.
Yeah, they do, and I kind of love it. Can I just say, this whole fight is awesome because he's trying, but he's never done this before, and look how badass she is.
It's so good.
Imagine going to an IHOP and just being like, guess what happened today?
What's going on?
She's just so, like, she's so bored, and she's so intent, she's so intent on just, dragging this out and toying with him, when she could just probably take him down right now. She could get him unconscious, is my belief here. But that's not Feora. Feora's, you know, sadistic.
Gotta rub it in a little bit, yeah. And I love
She's like, you need to understand that what you are is gross. And you're like a bug to me.
Yep.
That's perfect. And he gets pissed, you know. But I love how many of the IHOP kept using that would be me.
I just love that so many of our villains, especially in the Snyder films, are just straight up allegories for bigots, or actually bigots themselves.
Yes. Yes. And this is really brutal, though. I remember even in the theater, first time he got pounded on the pavement like that, I was like, oh, because it feels really visceral. It feels really painful. You know, I'm like, holy crap,
just
man.
him letting face down with the cape flapping. It's just like, oh, sweetie, don't get up. Just stay there.
man. and the Batman Superman fight is the same. It just feels really, really, really real. They're not just hitting each other. There's a lot of force in there.
Well, like this idea that we needed to add we needed to make sure that Superman was hitting things. We needed to make sure that, like, Superman, like, that was the big call before this movie came out.
Yep.
Was, like, Superman never hits anything. He never does any, like, actual damage. We never get to see him punch someone full out. And it was like, Zack answered that call, but he answered it in a way where he was like, well, this is gonna hurt too, guys. Like, this is gonna be painful. It's gonna suck for you. And it's, you know, I mean, like, you should not enjoy this as much as you think you will, and I like that.
Yep,
like,
also,
you want to see Superman punch someone full out. You also get to see Superman get his ass kicked.
Exactly.
Sorry.
Well, you see him get punched full out. I mean, look how far he rolls, man.
Oh my god. Hi.
This right here.
Oh gosh.
This is what made me excited to see the Flash. Like,
we're all excited. Okay, let's do this thing.
Look at the speed. This is what she does here.
And then she just stands there. No, you, and you. No. See? Oh my gosh. No. That was awesome. See right there.
Such a cool use of the speed. So like just
like, crap, man. Seriously.
Perfect. Well, like, where the Flash is manipulating physics, Kryptonians are just ignoring physics.
Yep.
Like, just completely ignoring what the rules are.
So I'm gonna.
Aw, she looks so fucking cool.
So awesome. See, we're all like, it doesn't do anything, but I have to admit, in that situation, I'd waste every bullet too, just because, you know, you gotta feel like you're doing something, even though you know you're screwed. So, yeah.
And it stalls her.
It does. But I love that smile. And that, when he punches him into the train.
I know.
Okay, that's really cool.
He's like, here's my knife, and she's like, here's my knife.
And he's like, yours
That's
is worse than mine.
This is the point, though, where she grows some respect for his audacity. Like, she's like, you are just like it's like a mouse just stood up to me.
I'm gonna kill you, but I'm gonna admire you while I do it.
Like, you pulled out a knife for real, dude?
Nice
Wow.
job, Bucky. You know? Yep, totally agree.
Oh, his hair is so good.
So awesome hair. Yeah, I'd kind of like it to come back to that. I kind of missed it.
Less wet.
Yes, when they made it so fat.
Superman don't need a bottle of hair gel every time.
I like so he just throws the train.
Freaking train! I know, that's my favorite Kryptonian. So yeah, I'm gonna throw this whole train at you. I'm gonna stop this rocket. I mean, what in the heck, you guys?
The ridiculousness of her just throwing out a hand, like, please don't stop.
Okay, and one thing
I don't like that.
Okay, one thing I want to bring up too, and
they light up this block. And
yeah, it's literally just the one city block.
Yeah.
It's one city block. Well, and you noticed when the plane blew up there, right in the middle there, and stuff like that, and when she exploded the rocket, the street exploded, the pavement blew up, but the buildings actually stayed relatively intact. So there was a giant fireball for a second, but you know, it actually wasn't nearly as bad as people want to make it seem. Surprise.
Okay. I love this. This is my favorite moment. Just yeah.
This is so good.
I know. Shh. Oh shit.
Thank you, Colonel.
allegiance to this particular Superman suit is eternal. Just
okay.
Fucking the colors
beautiful.
and
I have no problems with it.
I don't know. Like, I don't think it's as muted as people want to pretend like it is.
I think in certain scenes, like the color pops out in dirt, and in certain, it depends on the lighting of the scene. I think that's really ultimately what it comes down to.
I could see that.
Oh,
like look, it's still shiny right there. The S. Yeah.
Look how good it is. Stupid Superman suit. She's like, this is silly. What's happening?
I love her so much.
Okay, and I love how the color pops out right here in the suit. You see the blues.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're right. I've never felt like it was too diminished. So.
Well, and they do this great thing where the blue interacts with his eyes in a really intense way. Like,
it's gorgeous.
And they do a great job taking advantage of that.
Oh yes, it's beautiful.
I don't think they're interested in sharing this world.
Clark!
Poor Lois just barely showing up.
I know how to stop.
Trying to find you.
What happened down there?
Like you flew away before I could get you some exposition.
It is
See, and they skipped the exposition. I love it. It's beautiful.
Well, that's the thing too, is that we know what
They'll give it to
Lois
us a little bit later, you know. But yeah, we know those, but they're gonna move ahead. They don't need to say it 40 times, you know.
Codex, the DNA of 1 billion people. Then he bonded it within his son's individual cells. All of Krypton's heirs, living, hidden in one refugee's body.
Does Kal-El need to be alive for us to extract the Codex from his cells?
No.
You know, back to Faora when she extended her hand to shield herself from the rocket,
Release
it
the
always
world
brings
engine.
back to true information. Because it was herself from the impact before she escapes the Matrix.
Yeah. My favorite, everybody's like, oh, it's so corny. Release the World Engine, it's so corny. Have you ever read a comic book? Like, this is, you know what I mean? It's not like their dialogue's amazingly, you know, and it's pretty succinct and pretty basic and pretty, you know, dramatic.
I mean, in terms of embracing visuals and being really sparse about the dialogue, it's the essence of leading into the source material. It's the essence of understanding that the medium that you're pulling this from is a visual medium, primarily. And that art is what it's about. And also just thinking really consciously about the technology and how this terraforming actually works.
Yes. I love how real they made it.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
That's terrifying.
Right? And I was like, oh, Metropolis. Like, I totally forgot about that. It's the first time they mentioned it, you know? Okay, cool.
Very much the scariest thing I could think about. I remember the World Engine just ruining my life.
It's seriously terrifying. Like, imagine, like, and also...
that image of people being picked up and slammed into the ground.
I know.
Oh, gosh, yeah.
And just to think, Bruce Wayne isn't too far off.
It's honestly one of the best end-of-the-world scenarios I've ever seen in a film, you know.
Me too, yeah.
And I've seen a buttload of end of the world scenarios, we all have, but this one, I don't know, it was very real. It made perfect sense. It was terrifying. It was perfect. It just, even Doomsday, who I dearly love, couldn't quite top this. You know, this was amazing.
Yeah, well, also, I mean, Doomsday also served a different purpose in terms of the story. Like, he was there to only just kill Superman, where Zod was trying to rebuild an entire race of people.
I guess maybe what I should have said was, even Steppenwolf, much as I love him,
Yeah.
couldn't quite make it. They didn't make the stakes feel. See, okay, look at the water rise up out of there. Oh my gosh, Zach, come on, man, let me live. What is that gorgeousness, you know? And it looks, again, like a comic. It's perfect. Ah! He is awesome.
And just so much thought in terms of camera work about where our point of view is and where it goes to.
Yes, I love that. The big screen, it was amazing.
I remember as this was going on, I'm like, are they really going there? Are they really destroying a big portion of Metropolis?
Yeah.
And they went there.
Fuck yeah.
Slightly raised and it
So
and that
scary.
Fell, and it was like, we're all like, he got crushed. Oh my gosh. It was really astounding to me. The problem is, though, it's a slow process. And, from beginning to end, you could see in Heroes Park exactly about the radius that it destroyed.
Yep.
It didn't take out the entire city, and it didn't, it didn't decimate everything. It's a slow crawl outward. No, I don't want to talk to you. Go away.
Turning Earth.
Red Cross calling me.
So what happens to us? Based on these readings, there won't be an us. General Swanwick, sir. I'm on with the control tower. Colonel Hardy's on his way in, and he's got Superman in tow.
Superman?
Sir, that's what they're calling him, Superman.
And they use it so sparingly in this that by the time they finally just popped out with it during Lex's scene in Batman v Superman, I was like, whoa, it still was kind of a shock.
I know.
Like, I'm just not used to people saying that out loud,
Superman, so I guess
The ship is powered by something called Phantom Drive. It bends space.
I love the voice he puts on here.
I know, me too.
He's like, this is the big boy voice.
That's his charisma. See, again, that's the persona he puts on, and that's what people forget is that, like, this is a persona that Clark puts on when he is interacting with other people. This is not Clark Kent. This character is not Superman, and his persona is Clark Kent. No, this is Clark Kent, and his persona is Superman.
It's so funny too because it's basically Tamo Pennikit's voice, like from earlier in the movie. I don't know if anybody's familiar with Hilo, but as soon as he spoke, I was like, that's why'd you steal Hilo's voice? Why are you using another actor's voice? And then you get back to regular, and he's actually just talking in his regular. It's so cute. I like it a lot. The duality is adorable. I know. Where he's like, this is the listen to me voice.
You flirty turds. The world is over. And they're all like, yeah, we're love it.
God, I love the way he flies.
Like, P.S. I love
They're all like, crap. I mean, that is the coolest thing. And to watch everything watch, oh my gosh, that's like the best.
Like, even if the world ends today, I just saw a man take off in flight from standing still.
Pretty doggone professional,
Just seeing the people, that's truly terrifying.
It's so upsetting.
Oh my gosh, and it is upsetting.
That was the point, yeah.
Exactly, but it makes it so much a better story than, that was miraculously emptied.
I mean, it makes it so great in BVS because when Bruce rolls into that scene, I'm like, I remember how frightened I was.
Right?
And I remember how terrifying it was and how much I didn't want to be one of those people on the ground. And then you watch freaking Batman running toward the world engine. And you're like, the audacity, like, that's a hero. That's heroic. That was beautiful.
And he did it as Bruce Wayne, it was perfect. It was beautiful. I still love that scene. I love all these scenes. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Him and Lois.
Now you see Lois and Hardy. Look, they've actually got to a good place. They're working with each other. They're respecting each other. Oh, look, this is awesome. I love it.
Oh my God, the water at the corner of his eye.
And that beat in the background, that drum beat in the background when he opens his eyes, right there. Mm-hmm. He opened his eyes and my stepson went, oh, because he knew right then that he'd beaten it. And we're all like, oh crap.
Zod is Superman now. We're fucked. It's over.
And it's really cool that he took a military approach. He faced his weaknesses in order to not allow them to weaken him later, like it did first time.
It provides the depth that becomes one of the military philosophies, and he does it beautifully.
And the thing is that, like, for as much as people think they're, like, confused in these movies, like, there is a load of exposition. It's just exposition that makes sense. It's one character talking to another character, giving them information.
That's how exposition is supposed to work, guys. You're not supposed to just dump crap on it. You're not supposed to be it.
Look, you guys, if we take this concept and expand this shit for Brainiac, like, I'm just saying.
It's true. I don't understand the sheer amount of people that said, I don't understand why Superman's fighting that thing at the end. I don't feel like that was necessary. Was it necessary?
Well, it gets a defense system for that technology.
Exactly. They go to foreign planets to do this. Tech-Cat has a defense system, and here he is battling the one thing that makes him hate stuff on his own planet. Heck yeah, we need that. The way the Triad
also, like, what is he supposed to do? Just, like, whistle around the planet and then just sort of punch it and be like, oh, it's done.
Yeah, I know. I was like,
Danger
no,
over.
that's too easy. Way too easy. It was perfect the way they layered this together. Because you get civilians preparing the military and having his own battle, his own struggle on the other side is perfect. And they layered them together. This is what made it so suspenseful to me the first time. Like, holy crap, you know? Like, because they're all doing things and it keeps cutting in between them. And I'm like, holy crap, you know? It was really, really suspenseful.
And I think the suspense here too. I think that what people don't get is the suspense here is not, is Superman going to be defeated by this dude, by this machinery? You know, we kind of don't really believe in its ability to hurt him necessarily. But he's on a clock here, guys. Like, what you don't realize is, like, the faster he does this, the less casualties there are. There's a high stakes here if you care about the people on the ground, which is why we have Jenny and Perry and what's his face, who I don't care about.
Steve Lombard.
Thank you.
Lombard? Yeah, Lombard.
Yeah. Well, and especially here, where even like the military's defense system, their own fighter jets were turned against them in the gravity field. That's what brought this building down. You know, it was like, holy crap! Like, realize this is all so real. Of course, the military's going to break out all the defenses. You know, oh gosh, of course there's going to be a gravity field right next to the thing that's, you know, changing the Earth and creating an increased gravity field that's going to bring them down and make them, you know, projectiles that are suddenly very dangerous. It all makes total sense. I don't know. I don't understand why people don't like this movie, you guys.
Can't you see that? The Krypton you're clinging onto is gone.
Ship, have you managed to quarantine this invasive intelligence?
Failed.
I have.
Then prepare to terminate it. I'm tired of this debate.
Silencing me won't change anything. My son is twice the man you were.
He has some real cute moments.
We'll finish what we started.
He turns around, you
dare. Sweetheart. He's like, my baby is gonna kick your ass.
Tell me, you have Jor-El's memories, his conscience. Can you experience his pain? I will harvest the codex from your son's corpse, and I will rebuild Krypton atop his bones.
Just so he can get the last word in.
What's that, Nick?
I think all of that just to get the last word.
Yep. Bringing in this weakness with the atmosphere too, like bringing in this idea that like he's weakened by the atmosphere he's not adjusted to.
And of course, I mean that all makes sense. It's always been an issue. Of course, it's going to be an issue now too.
Well, even have Lois pointed out, like if you're listening to what Lois says, this movie makes a lot more
and she asked
sense.
That want to make a difference. It's like, yes, but I'm still going. You know, right there. That's my Superman. I don't know what Superman you guys expected.
This is really depressing right here.
Oh god, this scene is so powerful. I was just like, oh my gosh, like, and then people, why do we care about this? Of course we care about this. These are characters you should care about, and these are the people you should relate to. This is us down there trying to survive as humans in a crazy situation, you know. And
I think one of the points here too is that we have two characters of color, as the main point of Jeopardy and the main connection point, and I think honestly, if we're going to be really, really fair, that's a lot of what happens when a lot of people who are watching this film fail in terms of empathy with this scene, is that they're looking at that and they honestly have a harder time connecting to those characters.
See, that's ridiculous. They're people. I mean, you know, they're people.
I mean, we see it everywhere.
I imagine myself in either one's place, Perry or Jenny, or Lombard, even, you know. And Lombard, I'm proud of you, you white boy, because you wanted to run, but you didn't. You know,
this is Perry's
finest. That's what we all should do as white people. You know.
This is one of my favorite scenes right here.
Oh gosh, I love this, and the music is so gorgeous. This moment is so beautiful. The build of the music, Zimmer's a genius.
Really. Oh my god,
I'm gonna cry this time.
This is such a powerful moment, but for me it's kind of undercut by the power of what Perry's doing.
Yeah.
I love this moment so much.
Like, for me, I'm like, this is beautiful, and it's a really strong, courageous, and heroic moment for Superman, but it's almost like they're saying, like, Perry is just...
It's just as heroic, exactly.
Yeah.
And I agree. He is, and that was the whole point being made, and it's beautiful. And that's what Zach keeps trying to point at, is that it's just like that Lois promo from Justice League that they cut in terms of so they can have a crappier speech at the very end about hope and darkness and crap. What she's trying to say in the promo is that, yes, there's people on Earth that are, stronger than us and bigger than us, and they seem like gods, but they're not there to show us that we're small. They're there to show us, how amazing we can really be. And right there is just a perfect illustration of that message.
Well, and the end of Justice League really establishes this idea that, like, hope doesn't go anywhere. And it's like, what world do you live in? Because I'm pretty sure hope comes in and out. And right now, it's pretty hard to locate. Like, it's not just like, and that's the thing that pissed me off so much about Joss's new dialogue, was it was like, you just have to look up, and that's where hope is. Like, what are you talking about? You're nuts.
I think they were just looking for a way to get the look up in the skyline in there.
Terrible. It was the worst part. Like, honestly, I don't think anything made me so mad in the film as him sort of just, like, capping it with, like, and then, if you just find hope, like your fucking car keys, you're just gonna look around, and then there it is.
Top of the crap that they had made my Superman into, and the crap that they had made the message of that film. And
I didn't hate the car keys line. I didn't hate that line, but the look up in the skyline was cheesy for me.
Like, what if I look up and I see the world ending?
I love this right here.
Her eye makeup, why?
Oh gosh,
it's like ruining my life.
Kind of a shock for me on these films. It's always so
After you look like that in one of Zack Snyder's shots as an actress, I just feel like you want to work with him for the rest of your life. Like, she looks so powerful, she looks so beautiful, she looks so determined.
Krypton had its chance!
I remember how a lot of people were like, Superman kills a bunch of unborn Kryptonians, but they actually point that without the codex, there can't be any Kryptonians in those bubbles.
Yeah, what if it started with a bunch of eggs? They would have to be, codex to fertilize them to make them an actual possible Kryptonian, to make them an embryo. And they're not. Yeah. They're just possible eggs here. I agree. I was like, what? That's not at all what's in there. Didn't you hear about the codex? What? Don't you know? Did your mom not have?
There was a lot of noise afterwards. There was a lot of noise afterwards that was like, this movie is pro-abortion, and I was so I was so amused. I can't even tell. It's just like hilarious.
I was like, that's what you took from that. Oh my gosh. That and people were like mad at him for shooting against Krypton, saying Krypton had his chance of destroying it. Okay, but he should let the whole world die.
But that's the thing, is that.
Come on, guys, I don't understand your criticism.
I think that criticisms are really transparent because they're a reflection of sort of like what our status quo is and how Kryptonians really reflect our status quo, and that sort of like.
And here, like, and now I'm gonna get you for real, and he's like, crack! I love it. Run! And I gotta say, Emil doesn't get enough credit because he's awesome. And I just look at it and go, wait a minute, gotta look at it.
Fantastic.
And see right here, look how casually she just snaps his neck. Boom. Doesn't even care. But nobody has a problem with that because she's a bad person, But Clark does it and is is hurt by it and suddenly that's a problem. Yes! I love the symbol.
Is a total reward.
You go, Hardy.
Oh my god.
So awesome.
And that's the thing, is that like we're looking at this and we're just thinking like, what did Superman do to save the city? And it's like, no, like, you guys, this is Team Superman. You have to look at it that way.
He provided the possibility. And that's all it should ever be. That's why I hated Justice League. He just came in and suddenly the tides returned. It was perfect. And I was like, no, it should always be teamwork, you guys. Yeah. What the heck?
The use of the gravity here.
I love it. Watching everything go up while she comes down. Oh, it's so awesome.
The edges of his very face are blurred.
Yeah.
Yep.
and pulling against this.
Here, just watching him have to pull against it, I was like, come on, go faster, man! You know, fight!
These cracks of light on his face, it's like also an homage to All-Star Superman, because that was what happened. It's what started happening with him at the end of the comic book and the cartoon.
I think so.
He saved us.
Also, that kiss, people were complaining about this as well. I mean, they both experienced an almost death experience.
Exactly. If that doesn't make you want to kiss
this is the thing, though, is that I think the people who complain about the kiss don't think it was coming. But these two people have been trying not to kiss each other since the S joke. We all understand that. They've been sitting there like, this would be really inappropriate time to make out, huh?
Exactly.
Okay, maybe not now.
Dude,
maybe
we
later.
Almost died. We're gonna kiss, dang it, you know? And it was like, I agree. I'm like, I just don't see the problem. I don't see the problem.
They also think it's over, you guys.
Exactly.
Yep.
And they're like, how could they do this?
This is supposed to be the climactic kiss at the end of the scene moment.
Exactly.
And then the Zod thing comes out.
You know,
I love how he just barely levitates off the ground.
Me too. It's so controlled. You automatically see he's getting a much better feel for all of his powers, especially his flight.
Yeah.
Oh, he's awesome.
I think this is the best example of Michael Shannon's acting in this movie.
Yes. He's amazing.
Could have built a new crypto.
What I love about this dialogue right now is that this scene humanizes Zod so much.
Yes.
Like, he was literally just trying to protect his own people.
And that's what he says, you know? That's my entire purpose, you know?
Like, if you don't understand the whole Kryptonians are programmed to do a certain role kind of idea, this is where he crystallizes it, where he's like, literally, this is my programming. If I don't have this, I have nothing.
Exactly. Well, and this is where he goes from guy who sees himself as the hero, doing the right thing, doing what needs to be done, and now it's all over. So now's when he just goes berserk, and I'm just going to kill everything you love in revenge because that's what you did to me. And this is when he becomes like kind of a stereotypical villain. I'm just here to destroy things, but he's got a really good reason behind it and a really good motivation, and we all go, okay, I totally see how he got there. It makes him a full character.
I'm going to make them suffer, Cal. These humans you've adopted, I will take them all from you one by one.
You're a monster, Zod.
I get so tired of people being like, well, we should definitely have evil Superman. And it's like, we did that movie one. Like, we know what that looks like already. Like, Zod that was the potential of Zod, you guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
What Zod is there for. To show us how that power can be corrupted. We don't want to corrupt the incorruptible symbol. Like, what's the point then?
Yeah.
Well, and the whole thing of people were always getting cranky about the line, you know, you're a monster Zod, I'm not going to stop you. I'm like, A, it might be a little bit cheesy, but B, it's a comic book movie, really done in comic book style, and C, it's a complete callback to what his father said. And he doesn't even know it. You know, he's so much of Jor-El right now in terms of, no. You know, you are a monster.
You know, I like so much how he manifests Zod, that he got so angry and fired up. Just like when Clark got mad at the teacher that she was annoying him, he also got his heat vision, so it kind of leads.
I never thought about the timing of it. Nice one. That was really awesome. And yes, there's destruction everywhere. Guess what? It happens when two gods fight. That was the point that they were making about this film. Look at their, you know.
I mean, this is the potential disaster of Superman off the chain, of Superman who doesn't have the qualities that Clark has, of Superman who doesn't take responsibility for his own actions.
Yep, and they're making that whole point. And yet all people can look at is, they look at it to see the chaos everywhere and the destruction and be like, oh, this is my Superman. Are you kidding me?
But just like if you pick up Superman and use him as a wrecking ball, then suddenly he's responsible for the damage.
Exactly. That's completely stupid. And on top of that, it's like, oh, well, he should have taken him out of the... Oh my gosh.
Look at the vindictive damage being made by Zod here.
I know.
He doesn't have to gorilla crawl up the side of this building, and yet...
Just them colliding causes that much damage. I mean, this is the problem, is that they're so...
Okay, can I mention real quick before I forget this subtle joke in the background here? Have you guys noticed the sign?
Never mind, we're down to 0.
You know what I love about this scene so much is that we have seen Clark flying so much, but when Zod learns how to fly, it got so emphasized on this moment, like it should scare you.
Yep.
A lot.
I remember in the theater we all reacted like, oh. No, I was saying, like, when I first saw it in the movie theater, like everyone in the audience was like, "Oh shit!"
Yep. See, and even Clark's face dropped right then, like, "Holy crap!" You know, and then he just digs in and goes for it because he's gotta take this guy out. You know, that's Superman I want to.
I love this. And look, Superman tries to take the fight away from the.
He's tempting.
Yeah.
But when
also, like this, their entire corridor here, their entire center of damage is being ruined by Zod, like basically just like punching it down.
Yeah.
Like a mile a punch.
Yep.
Also, I remember how a lot of people were complaining that Superman destroyed Metropolis in quotations, but he just literally flew over all the buildings in order to find Zod. He didn't flew through them.
Blowing through buildings on purpose, you know. When you get thrown, there's some problems there.
I just think that this scene wouldn't be a big deal, honestly. I think that if this spectacular level of damage had happened in the absence of people cringing on the ground, of people cowering under cars, of those shots of the crowd being like, "Oh no," of the actual collateral damage that Zack shows, that I think nobody would have blinked. But we have Jenny and Perry and everyone on the ground, and all of a sudden we see victims, and all of a sudden the violence matters.
Yep.
As if those victims wouldn't have existed if we didn't see them.
Yeah, and that's sad. But I agree, and it's the point it's trying to make is that he has, in a huge way, come out in front of the entire world. They can all see him. They're all watching him work. They're all watching him take down Zod. And if there's not victims everywhere else, why would there suddenly be victims in here? You know, I mean, people are just weird.
Yeah. But also just the consequences of this kind of thing. Like, there are consequences.
I like that there are consequences.
There's nothing bloodless about this movie.
I know. Oh boy, this scene.
He tries so hard to. Look, his hand is on his chin. He's trying to turn his face. I mean, he tries everything.
And we even make that connection. Like we shoot directly to people being scared, in danger. This idea of these people like cowering under the heat of his heat vision. To him making the choice.
Yep.
Like, it couldn't be more clear in execution.
I know.
Yeah, and that's incredible acting. Incredible acting, because he, you know,
I
see
will
him make
never
the choice.
forgive the Mary Sue. I will never forgive the Mary Sue for interpreting this as anger. I will literally never.
Oh
I'll never
my gosh! Really? Well,
the Mary Sue review of this movie, you need to read it because it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense at all. It's just in outer space. But yeah, like basically just they decided that this was him being mad.
What?
Like, what are you talking about?
Now Lois, he's like completely broken and alone, and she goes to hold him because she can't stand the sight of that, and he clings to her like she's everything he's got. That's anger. Okay.
For real.
Yeah, and the scream is
also
it's
a direct reflection of this of the moment when he loses his father. It's exactly the same feeling.
Right.
And Cavill does
I love
sorry,
this.
I laugh every time he goes, "It was," you know, like.
You know, right before he decides to kill Zod, you can see that he closes his eyes right before this moment, and you can see that his eyes got
I know you're trying to
teary
find out where I hang my cape.
right before he decides to do what he has to do.
Yep, totally agree.
How do we know you won't?
This is just so funny to me because this is so Superman, and I don't understand people who are like, "This is a slow arc towards Superman." Like, this is a Superman scene, guys. I don't know what to tell you.
But it has to be on my own terms.
And he's using that voice you're talking about.
And you have to convince Washington of that.
Using his
Even
voice.
if I were willing to try.
The big boy voice.
Persona. He's got to put it on when he talks to these guys.
I don't know, General.
I love this line.
Guess I'll just have to trust you.
I love that callback.
So cute.
That's wonderful. And yet, even then,
and we got a little smile there, and every guy.
And then her.
Oh, this line.
Nothing, sir.
So much.
I just think he's kind of hot.
Get in the car, Captain.
He's like, well, yeah.
Someone had to say it. It's always a pleasure to see Superman.
Up close.
Always believed you were meant for greater things, and that when the day came, your shoulders would be able to bear the weight.
We just keep coming back to this graveyard too.
Yep.
That would have been so consistent throughout. This idea that we just keep coming back to this graveyard. That we keep coming back to sort of like this initial loss.
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, I know this. And Zach shot it himself.
Mm-hmm. This is a fantastically shot movie, just from start to finish.
Let's see, and again, here we go. So much showing and not telling. I don't know what the heck people are whining about.
I just remember
right here. You can see their looks. You can see his look. All this dialogue is coming out, and not a word spoken.
It had to bug me when people.
Is so great.
Like, I know, honey, I know, and he's like, but
he's like, no, but there's more. It kind of bugged me when people thought that he was pretending to be Batman. I'm like, what? Like, how does that?
Stupid.
Literally, people wore capes before Superman, y'all. Where do you think he got his cape? This is ridiculous.
No.
Stop.
I have, actually.
Oh, look, he's smiling again. So cute.
I gotta find a job where I can keep my ear to the ground.
I swear, I'm just like, he's my son.
Bring back the curls.
I know.
How dare you?
They make him seem younger, and I'm just like, I love these curls. And I love how it never.
And this fashion disaster. I cannot write enough about
I know.
fashion disaster.
I missed that in
Is
Justice
he wearing
League.
tweed? What is that? Is he wearing fucking tweed on top of flannel? I'm gonna kill him. How dare he?
Come on, Lois.
That's why, honestly, I missed that style.
It's so Hick goes to the city. Like, he's like, well, this is the nicest flannel I own, guys.
Please, Lombard, please.
And that's why, honestly, like, I missed that style in Justice League when he's just wearing like a suit and tie and then the coat. I'm like, that's not our Clark.
Lombard.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to meet our new stringer. I want you to show him the ropes. This is Clark Kent. Good luck, kid.
Yes, we finally get. Steve. Yeah. Love it.
Hi. Lois Lane. Welcome to the planet.
Oh.
She's like, this is less convincing than the baseball cap.
So awesome. And then they smile. It's perfect.
Such an amazing movie.
Summons up his geekiest fucking smile.
I know.
Embarrassing, and people were like, dude, how did she not recognize him? And I'm like, holy crap, are you that
Are you
dumb?
serious?
Oh my gosh, come on. Yeah, it's just embarrassing. Stop it. And this song right here, the end of the deal, it ends on a very triumphant and just like victorious, and I love it. I love it.
I love that when the movie started, there were no credits at all, and all of the credits are at the end of the movie with this heroic Superman theme by Hans Zimmer, and it's fitting because this movie was created by heroes, like literally.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Agreed. And now we know how much heroism went into there. I need to send Christopher Nolan a gift basket, and
It's also so immersive. Like, you can't be reminded this is a movie because it's such an important event.
Exactly.
And it kicks off something that's really important. You need to be completely invested, and I think that suspension of disbelief is a huge part of seeing a Superman film.
Yep, agreed. And I don't know. I don't understand how people don't just love this. How do you not leave going, woo, that was awesome, you know? Like, I saw it one time. I woke up the next day. I'm looking at oh man, when can I see this again? You know, how do I?
I know the people who begrudgingly
more.
accept this film are not my people. The people who are like, oh yeah, no, it was all right. Like, it wasn't so bad. I'm like, nope, bye.
It's my
we have
favorite.
nothing to talk about.
A friend of mine, not the one who had the Batman v Superman fiasco, but a different one was like, I don't know, it was okay, but seriously, like, he just let his dad die, and I was like, see you later, bye. You know, like, it happens that fast. I don't have patience. I'm not going to talk to you about it.
I know.
So.
Okay, so question, how many times have you guys seen, did you guys end up seeing the movie in theaters?
Think here.
4 times. I saved all the tickets.
I'm pretty sure it was 4. Oh my gosh, I forgot that the symbol came in after.
Oh yeah, I know.
Hello, awesome sauce. Oh my gosh, that was epic. Okay.
I haven't found the cheap theater yet, I don't think, when Man of Steel came out. So I think
that was the problem too. That's why it was only 4 for me. But I just it was summertime, which makes it harder. Like, Batman v Superman was the perfect thing because it was people were in school. So it was easier to go to a matinee and be like, bing, and just pop in and out. And in the summertime, it was a lot harder with care and, making sure they don't burn down the house, kill each other, and all that kind of thing. And so I only got to see it 4 times. But I remember making serious effort to get those 4 in because it meant a lot.
Mm-hmm. You know what's funny?
Why I was suddenly trying to look up bootleg versions of like anything, everything on YouTube. Like who has any kind of footage about this film? Because I need it. I need more. So.
Mm-hmm. That's why. Like I saw the movie, I would say 6 times in theater, and so I saw that first night, which was awesome, and then I saw it like a couple times by myself. One time I saw it. Okay, so I have a funny story. So I went to go see the movie by myself at the drive-in one night, and I come home. And my dad's like, where have you been? I'm like, oh, I was at the drive-in. And he's like, oh, who are you with? I'm like, I was by myself. He's like...
Me? Me, myself, and I.
and he was like, what movie did you see? I'm like, Man of Steel. He's like, of fucking course it was. Like, I don't know. And then I saw that movie. The last time I saw that movie, it was like one of those like play it again theaters where they show movies from like 6 months ago, like now. So it was like... how long ago? I'd probably say it was like either September, October. It was like the last time I saw it in theaters before it ultimately went away. And I saw it was like $3.50 to see it at that last theater.
And you're like, heck yeah!
I know.
I was usually, and the thing is, before this movie, I think I was really like careful about not overexposing myself to a film because like I've worn myself out on films before, but this was just sort of like, oh, it's the weekend. I guess we're gonna go see Man of Steel, huh?
It is. It was something like you just can't get enough.
And like such a joy to go see every single time, and like so
and then
uplifting.
I went forward because I hadn't really paid attention before it came out, so I went backwards, found every trailer, watched every single one. You're right, Nick. That favorite trailer of yours is my favorite of the. Oh my gosh, it's just so perfectly put together with the soundtrack and everything. And like I watched them all. I watched them all on repeat. I listened to the soundtrack like all day, every day. It was crazy. I was suddenly deeply obsessed, and I've never looked back. So, well, now I'm slightly looking back, but that's Joss. Yeah. So, screw you, Joss. Anyway.
If anything, this movie, this movie really reminds me of just what we lost in Justice League, and it's just, it sucks because everything you can't tell what Zack was trying to do by like intentionally like going back to like the graveyard stuff. You can tell like there would have been a scene at the graveyard, but it wouldn't have been disrespectfully digging up Clark's grave like they did.
You. It was probably deemed too serious, and I agree. They would have gone back. It just wouldn't have been in that way.
Yeah.
And oh, it just believe me. This is why I was so upset.
They had to dig up Clark Kent. We all understood that they were going to unearth the grave, and it was going to be kind of
weird.
It was supposed to be upsetting. It was supposed to be kind of morbid. It was supposed to be. I mean, that's the thing though, is that if you care about the person who's buried in the grave, it's unearthing a grave is very different than the idea of just sort of like they treated it like archaeology. They treated it like like they were they were just unearthing some stranger, and it's like Superman kind of ceases to be a stranger at this point.
I know.
You know, he's a global icon. He's not really a stranger to anyone. He has a weird celebrity status. You know, you would have the same sort of, you know, experience, like if someone was like, yes, let's go dig up David Bowie. Be like,
No.
let's think about that for a minute.
Yeah.
This is a terrible thing
Are
that we
you
don't
sure?
want to do.
I would totally be
Because
Diana.
we have a personal relationship with David Bowie. We don't have a person, and that's the kind of personal, like, you know, we have like a sort of relationship with Superman as an icon, if not a personal one.
Yep. Yep, it was weird, and I think I kind of screwed myself a little bit harder. I didn't realize it going in, but like they told us it was going to be Zach's film still, so I was all ready for that. And so like 2 days before I went to see Justice League, I watched Man of Steel, and then I watched Batman v Superman. I crushed into Suicide Squad, and then I went and sat down, and it was such a jarring experience because I was so fresh off of these two that it just punched me in the face, and I just spent my time sitting there completely devastated. And I admit to going out to the car and being so upset that I could not drive for a little bit. It was like, I just need to sit here and try to process enough that I don't have an accident getting home, because what was that? What was that? That was not what we were led to expect. And I thought with Joss involved, okay, so there'll be a couple scenes that I'm like, oh yeah, you can tell it was a rewrite. Okay, but I figured, you know, 80% of it would still be Zach's, and it wasn't. And that's what kicked my butt. So these films are wonderful, but don't watch them in order and then try to go watch Justice League, because it really makes it apparent. It makes it so clear that it's not Zach's film, and it kicked me in the face. It was awful. So yeah. So I'm just going to come back and live in these.
I'm really glad that the film didn't start with that montage, because I think that would have lulled me into a really false sense of security. And I think seeing the monstrous face and having the weird car keys thing happen really like prepared me in terms of like what my expectations were. I was like, okay, so we're pretty sure a lot of the Superman footage has been slaughtered. I didn't assume that it would be all of the Superman footage, but you know, I was kind of prepared. Like I was like, oh, parts of this movie are going to be pretty bad. Okay.
Yeah.
And then we kick into the montage, and my expectations got raised a little bit.
Mine too.
And then it became like basically a roller coaster.
Yep. I think we all, and everybody knows, we're like, oh, okay, and here we go. So, now, you know, this is a Zach film. Okay, cool. And then it just went off the rails. And by the end, it's like, this is absolutely not anywhere close to and never will be a Zach film. You know, like, and you're right. I expected with Superman a few scenes. I didn't expect them to do 90% of his stuff. It still makes me a little nauseous to think about it. And it just... It's such a heartbreaking thing to see such a beautiful vision trashed.
The thing is that
exactly.
I'm so ecstatic about the idea that we even got this film, because I mean, like I said, like when I entered into this film, I expected it to be disappointing. Like I showed up looking for disappointment. I showed up being like,
you know, most of the time they are.
I'm gonna have some great lukewarm feelings about this film, and that's gonna be fun. And wouldn't it be awesome if this was a pretty decent film? You know, I got really used to having all my wishes granted in the theater.
Yeah.
That's not something that I expected before I saw this film.
Yeah, I got spoiled on this one and Batman v Superman, and so that's why when they told me it would be Zach's film, I still expected that, and man, was that a surprise. So.
I mean, to be honest, after the first viewing, when I was going back home, I was praying that I'm in a nightmare and I will wake up any minute. Like seriously, that was my feeling at the moment.
I can totally see that. Yeah, it's like, so that was just a joke, right? You guys are funning with us, and now it's time to bust out the real version now, please, anytime. Like, and that's why people are so on of this, you know, release the Snyder cut, excuse me, you know, and half of it is just wanting to send them a message. We are not happy with the way you handled this, because you lied to us and straight up just sabotaged somebody's work, you know, and then told us that you didn't, and then, you know, sold us a bunch of trailers on a film that it's not. And so half of it is that message, and the other half is we really are unhappy with this, and we want the better version that we know is somewhere, even if it's incomplete, and it's still better than what we got, you know? And I don't know that we'll ever get it, but part of me, like this tiny little part of me that's not cynical and realistic, still hopes that we might, simply because it's like, it was so heartbreaking to have that taken away that I just want it, you know? It did. I feel like somebody died. So it's like, you know, they're dead and they're never coming back and you know it, but you still want them, you know, and that's pretty much where I am. So
this whole point they were making that you can't save the world alone and etc. And when Superman comes back, he does everything alone.
Gosh, you're right.
He showed that he can do everything alone. Like, he can defeat the main villain. He can move an entire building that breaks all of the laws of physics, by the way.
Thank you. I was like, what?
I mean, why do you need Justice League then at all if you have Superman? Oh
this honestly, I feel like Justice League brought the character back to where he was before Man of Steel, and just being this like overpowered guy. It's just, and this is gonna come from someone like, I still enjoy Justice League. But
it's like all of the complaints that people have about Superman as a character, and they were like, what if he just embodied all of those complaints? Why would you want him to do that?
I don't know. And then honestly, the biggest thing that irked me was the inclusion of the freeze breath, which has never been established in these movies before, and it looked like shit. Like, the CW has done freeze breath better. Like, seriously, like, it's like, and the CW, from what they do, all they do is they just have ice just push people. It never actually does anything of value. And in Justice League, it just looked awful. And just in that whole scene, and you can tell, like, when that first introduction where he's like, I believe in truth and justice, or whatever whatever that line was, you can tell they already, like dubbed over his mouth, because that wasn't originally what he said. Because you can tell the CGI moving around his face. It just... That whole, like, there were still moments in that scene, like the end with them at the farm. I don't know if that was fully Joss. Like, that felt more of like the Clark I knew with him and Bruce.
Okay, so here's the thing with that scene. Do you mind if I cut in?
Oh, no, go right ahead. Yeah.
By 3 times, I've spent a lot of time staring at that scene because it's weird, and it seems to me to be 50% Zach and 50% Joss. This is what I think. When Bruce is standing at the truck and he's looking at the house, and Clark walks up to him and says, really, thank you's not enough, or something like that. And then Bruce says, just righting a wrong, and he gives him this funny look full of subtext. That is Zach all over, because that right there is the Bruce Wayne I saw in Batman v Superman, who says so much with so little, and basically that entire look was, sorry that I tried to kill you and beat you up and accidentally got you killed, and that your mom lost her house while you were gone. You know, I mean, it was all of that. It wasn't, I don't not like you. You know, it was just that whole, you know, okay, and now I've made it better by buying the farm back because that's all I know how to do. I suck at feelings. And then, you know, like, then it switches, and you see Martha and Lois moving into the house, you know, and they're looking at the house, and then it comes back, and that one, I admit, I'm not even really sure which version that is. I can't tell with Lois. It's a little bit farther away, but somebody else could probably tell me. And then when it switches back, the background behind them looks fake. It looks weird. It looks superimposed, and it looks funny. And then it's, so how'd you get it from the bank? Oh, I bought the bank. And then he gives him this look, which was honestly, Henry did a lovely job of the comic timing of that Clark look. It was hilarious, I'll admit it. You know, but at the same time, you know, he looks at him, and then they, you know, I bought the bank. I don't know, with me it's just a habit. And they walk towards the farm, and even the house looks different than it always has before. And so I swear to you, it seems like it's half and half. It seems like the first part was Zach, and then Joss came in and added something at the end. And I could be wrong, but that's how it looks. That's how it really appears, because it's so jarring when the camera flips and you see them and you go, what the? It looks fake behind them. It looks like all the other reshoots in the cornfield and stuff that we know are reshoots that just looks wrong. And so, yeah, that's just my perspective.
Yeah, the fact that cornfield was reshooted, you can just see a profile picture of one of our members and be terrified.
Yeah, and honestly, like, the CGI doesn't look awful in certain scenes. Like, it's a little less noticeable, but the screenshots that people have taken just exemplify how much of a bad idea it was to do those reshoots in the first place.
Sure, right. Wow, lower the quality a notch on there, and it's real noticeable. So in the end, you could tell that it was rushed and that they just didn't have as much time, because they did so much of the reshoots and stuff like that. They didn't have the time that they really, really needed to make it look right. And so it's just like, not only did you completely destroy Zach's vision, but you had to keep your timetable, and so then you did a bad job of it, and I just can't decide which one is more insulting, Like, I just... I can't.
But, honestly, even if they moved the movie from November to the next year and made Henry Cavill look perfectly fine with CGI, like you wouldn't notice the difference, I would still probably wouldn't like how he was characterized in this movie.
Yep.
Same. So you're right. I agree.
We've been
It's like,
saying,
even if
one of the blessings of the CGI is that at least we know where the line is.
Thank you. I've been saying that to my
what
husband
dialogue belongs to Zach and what dialogue is Joss Whedon insert.
That mustache is a blessing, because it is a blessing to be able to look and go, okay, so this is obviously a reshoot, and that's not, that's Joss's work. Okay, good to know. It is a blessing, because otherwise I don't think we'd be able to as clearly define how much was meddled with, and we might not be quite as outraged, but I do agree. It's a mixed blessing. So, I don't know. Henry sticking up for his mustache, maybe that's what he means, So
I just think it's dumb in the first place that Paramount would I feel like Paramount they made this whole thing a joke of let's just really force WB to CGI a mustache just because we're petty that way.
I swear it is weird. I'm like, really? I mean, his mustache
I have a lot of respect for Paramount based on that. Honestly, I was kind of like, you know what? Fuck you guys too.
Heaven forbid that you help out a fellow movie maker, even if they're a rival studio. Yeah.
If you guys had like some sort of stupid crisis where you're like, oh my god, I hate everything about this Superman. I need to change literally everything. And you need to, yank him back into this film for reshoots for a film that's already completed. And the extensiveness of those reshoots, come on. No, fuck you. This is he's our employee right now. We have the say. Screw you guys.
It felt like a dick measuring contest.
It was.
To go ahead.
It was, and Paramount pulled a power play, and I had a lot of respect for it.
In some sense, I kind of trying to think about all of this. Everything is happening for a reason, and I think what happened with Justice League in general had to happen in order for Warner Brothers to learn a lesson and not interfere in the future with any DCEU movies, because
I hope they learn, but I don't know.
God knows what they would do with Aquaman if Justice League was successful.
Yeah. Okay, you have a good point.
But also, I think we kind of established this in the podcast too. That I don't think James Wan would be bullied like that. If something were to happen, I feel like James Wan would just walk. He has that ability to. He has the pull. If he doesn't get the movie he wants from that studio, he can be like, fuck it, I'm just gonna go make horror movies for Blumhouse. I can make it for a dime and they won't touch me. James Wan, I think, has more pull than, let's say, Zack. Zack, Warner Brothers took advantage of a shitty situation and they're just shitty for it. So looking at what they did with him, and I think James understands. He's like, no, they ain't touching my movie. Fuck that. I think James is of that mentality. I'm not trying to say Zack is weak or vulnerable compared to James. I just think that it's two different situations where I don't think Warner Brothers will, just because of who James is and also how far along he is within the production of it too. I don't know. I guess we'll see in a year.
I don't know. I'm just afraid to trust that they've actually learned their lesson and that they're not just going to pull the same stupid crap again. And I don't know. I just don't know anymore.
Yeah, honestly, I think I honestly think there's going to be a regime change, because you don't spend $300 million on a movie if it's barely gonna crack even. People are gonna lose their jobs.
Yeah. I hope so.
At least at the corporate level. For the people who worked on the movie, I really hope they don't lose their jobs, because they're just pawns in this really shitty game that Warner Brothers is playing. If anyone loses their jobs, I want it to be like Kevin Tsujihara and all them who were the ones pushing let's hope and optimism and Jeff Johns and bringing in Joss Whedon.
Who made these decisions? Not the people who are under a gun and forced to put their name on a crappy product. Like, that's what's really sad to me, is that the idea that some VFX person has to put their name on basically being given a couple months to reconstruct the bottom half of Henry Cavill's face. That's unfair. I mean, that was never going to turn out well.
Yeah. Nope. Well, and as far as I'm concerned, Zach shouldn't have taken it, but, you know, he put his stupid all over it, but at the same time, there were people making decisions from higher above about how he should do it, and so it can't all come down to him, because, you know, the call was from higher above about making it 2 hours. The call was from higher above about making it more hopeful and more this which kills me, and more funny and more, you know, everything, and so, you know, now he just, you know, of course went right along with it, but, like, you're right. People, those higher ups who are making those decisions and pushing for this, their heads need to roll. Please fire them, because I'm good with it.
Yeah. And I hope that they get Zack Snyder's cut. I don't know if it's gonna happen. I obviously it exists in some form, because especially from all that's been coming out, like, there is a finished product, at least like shot wise, and with at least a decent portion of Junkie's score. Now, whether Warner Brothers is gonna release it, that's yet to be seen, but I certainly hope so, because, frankly, I'd rather have that Blu-ray sitting on my shelf than what we got in theaters, because I don't want to hold a Joss Whedon movie on the same shelf as from the people who made, like, Batman v Superman, Man of Steel, and Wonder Woman, you know, like, because I don't think Joss deserves to be up that high on that shelf, literally.
I would watch Snyder's cut even if Ray Fisher is going to be in his motion capture costume.
See? Yeah. Me too. Easily. I would take it half finished, which they'd probably never release, but I would, because I would still feel more and have a better experience than I did with this one.
Yep. Yeah, I completely agree. So to wrap up our thoughts on the Man of Steel commentary, though, it was just nice to be able to do this. I know Katie and I did the Man of Steel commentary back in like June or whatever, but it was nice to actually be able to sit down and do this, especially after Justice League, and just kind of get like a cleanse and just kind of look back at why we fell in love with this version of these characters. And like, and now I'm more incentive to watch Batman v Superman again, you know, Wonder Woman again. I just want to thank Zach so much for what he's done in establishing this universe. I know he sees these messages all the time. He can only respond to so many, but I do want him to know how truly appreciative we are of what he's done with these characters and making these characters real to us and not just caricatures that Joss pretty much made them into. Man of Steel is a fantastic film. I'm always going to defend it till I die. And it's going to remain to be my favorite Superman movie, and that's never going to change. Unless Zack comes out and does another one and knocks it out of the park, which at this point is unlikely. Like unless like Zack Snyder can like buy the Superman rights from Warner Brothers and do it on his own, then I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah, I have to agree there. But I also agree this is by far my favorite Superman film ever, and it will always, I'm pretty sure it will always remain so, you know, and it's just, I guess I'm just kind of happy and impressed that we even got what we did as we start to see more and more details come out, and I realize how wonderful it is that we even got this far and got 2 amazing films that Zach did. So I'm really grateful for that. I'm just greedy and want more, but I'm really grateful for, I don't know, for his vision and the way he sees things. It's a really awesome experience and not your general run-of-the-mill fare, and that's why I love it.
Yeah. He made Superman truly epic. Like, he wasn't cheesy or cartoonishly funny. He was exactly like, he had a right amount of pathos, a real drama, like real emotions. Man of Steel brings real emotions in me. Like, it doesn't think that one thing that I can do while watching the movie is laugh. It's not the only thing that I can do while watching the movie. I can feel a various amount of human emotions, and Man of Steel does exactly that. He touches different emotions in me, and
you are so right. That is well said. You are so right.
Yeah, God, just Man of Steel. I don't know. At the time, I didn't think you could really do this character in a different light and have it stand out like it did. But Zack fucking did it. Like, and this was right after Smallville, where people to this day are still thinking that Tom Welling was the best Superman and they want him back and whatever. Like, as much as I love Tom Welling, he was ready to be done with that character. 10 years of that character, you could tell it exhausted him. He wanted to move on and do new things. But Zack was able to do, like, he truly reinvented this character for the modern age, and I don't think he would have gotten that from very many other directors. I feel like if it was anyone else that Warner Brothers was eyeballing, like, honestly, I feel like if it wasn't for Chris Nolan, bringing in Zack, I don't know if this movie would have even gotten off the ground, let alone be done the way it was.
So what we see in terms of like these modern adaptations is we see a lot of people from Zack's generation trying to sort of condescend to a new incoming generation and doesn't necessarily want to storytell to that generation, doesn't want to necessarily see their perspective. And I think what Zack does is really cool because in a lot of ways, his Superman is an extremely millennial Superman. He lives in the current moment. And we live in this sort of culture where storytellers end up getting their power once they're kind of irrelevant to the culture. They're not on the edge of it anymore. And somehow Snyder keeps that edge. Somehow Snyder is able to continually comment on the present moment instead of being like, well, 10 years ago when I was a young sprout, this is what was happening. You know? That makes his films, I think that is a lot of what makes his films really divisive. Nobody wants to take the millennial take on Superman very seriously. Nobody wants to take millennials very seriously. There's a huge smear campaign for the whole entire generation. What we have here is like a filmmaker who's really, well into the boomer generation, who's just basically like extending a hand to an upcoming generation and being like, I see exactly what's happening with you guys. Like, I see exactly what's happening in terms of masculinity, in terms of the way gender is moving, in the way politics are moving, in the way that you guys see the world and the way the world actually is. And I think that is a precious commodity in a filmmaker. And it just doesn't happen anymore.
Agreed. Well said.
I mean, we had that guy, we have like the dude working on like Cars, 75 or whatever. I don't know what sequel they are on the Cars series, but like basically just making like a weird jaded baby boomer take on the Cars series. And it's like, you're making this for like chill, like calm down. Like, why are you guys so angry? And I don't know, I just think that, like, we have so many filmmakers who are just sort of like, no, like, I have to tell my story about how everything's going in the wrong direction. And it's so, like, weirdly, like conservative and loses that edge of progress. And I think Zack keeps that edge. Which is why I think, like, in 10 or 20 years, he's going to be epic. And I hope he's around to enjoy it.
I completely agree. And yes, I think he will be. But it really sucks to see him get so misunderstood and pounded and abused right now when all he's just trying to do is make good films his own way. And, I hate watching it. But so I hope I'm around in 20 years to see him get appreciated too. And then I'll turn to everybody and go, I told
you! and maybe by then we'll finally get the Justice League cut.
If I have to wait 20 years for that thing, I'm going to kill somebody.
Well, look at how long it took Warner Brothers just to do the director's cut for Superman 2. And they had that, and for me, that's like the superior version of Superman 2. Except for, because the ending is a little weird. The ending is weird in both movies. But, I don't know. I hope Warner Brothers learns that lesson sooner rather than later. Because first of all,
yes, please.
Mainly for Zack's sake and his family's sake. Because this whole situation has been nothing but disrespectful to them in every aspect. But also just because I'm a little selfish and I just want to see his true vision sooner.
I think Warner Brothers, they have to win trust back from core DCEU fans who genuinely enjoyed what Zack Snyder did with previous two movies, because if they will lose these fans, and as the box office of Justice League shows, they will lose money with them as well for all the future films, because if DCU fans are disappointed with our decisions, they are not going to be interested in this franchise anymore, because we betrayed them with all the stuff that happened with Justice League.
Yes.
So releasing Snyder's Cut, it will be a smart decision, first of all, because I think they have to win our trust back.
Yep.
Yeah, because
I would love to see them do it.
Yeah, what they did was they alienated fans on every level.
Oh yeah,
it's ridiculous, and all for what? Like a 38% on Rotten Tomatoes for like a $94 million opening for the movie, or however much it was. That is pitiful for what should have been like one of the biggest blockbusters of the year.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they treated Zack like shit. They treated us like shit. Like Warner Brothers just saw that their budgets or saw their bonuses were coming, and that's all they cared about. Like, and I know they're a business, but honestly, fuck them. Like like I'm at the point where, like, yes, I want Zack's cut of Justice League. I want that more than anything. But if Warner Brothers is gonna pull something like maybe like they did with Suicide Squad, and be like, oh, here's an extended cut with a few months of footage, but it's essentially the same exact movie, then that's not what I want. And I'm gonna support Aquaman, and I want to support Shazam, but other than that, I don't even know how much I'm going to continue to support these movies if this is the direction that they're moving in.
Agreed. If they continue this way, I don't see a whole lot of the diehards, from the beginning, sticking around, because it's not what we were there for. And yeah,
I mean, Warner Brothers, they have to feel embarrassed, because worst of all, they literally lied to all of us with the trailers, with the statements during interviews and press tour. They lied, literally, and it's just so painful to realize that now.
Yeah, it's really,
yes, it is.
It's really shitty what they did. I can't.
It is.
I mean, if you think about Suicide Squad did better with the box office than a movie with Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Flash, Aquaman, and Cyborg in one movie. Like, how is that even possible?
Yeah,
it is possible because Warner Brothers screwed a dozen of their fans over. I mean, I think they thought that DCEU fans are not of such a huge number, and we will swallow anything that will be released under this brand, but
we proved otherwise.
I'm so happy that they're getting exposed, that they're... I mean, they deserve everything that is going at them right now.
Yep.
Everything.
Yep.
I really thought that they were above the press, and I really thought that they were
I did too.
Professional enough company to notice that the narratives that are being spun in the press about them are totally wrong. So the narratives being spun in the press about us would probably be equally wrong. But it didn't seem to connect, and we've kind of proved that, like, the reputation that this fandom has for trolling, for being totally receptive to anything DC is willing to spit in our face, all of that stuff is obviously false, and Justice League is proving that it's false, because people are liking what they like, and definitely not liking what they don't like. And that has nothing to do with whether or not it has DC characters, and nothing to do with whether or not it has a Warner Brothers stamp on it. They'll lose us. And I don't think that they thought that was possible. I think they thought, well, as long as we've got this demographic locked down, we're going to reach for this other demographic, and change just everything in order to please the other demographic. And they had no idea they didn't have us locked down in that way.
No. It's just, oh my gosh, what a colossal screw job they did, and
Yeah.
and I don't think they saw this coming, and now they're like, why won't they swallow everything we just give them? I mean, what the heck? But we do have brains, and we were here for all of our own different reasons, and if you take the reason away, then we're not just going to kill ourselves to support you blindly.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
All right. I have to go. So.
Yeah, I think we were definitely talking more negatively than I thought we would. This is about Man of Steel, damn it. Thank you guys for doing this. I'm glad we were able to take the time.
Rocks. Sorry.
I'm glad we were able to sit down and actually do this commentary. I know Katie and I already did it, but I'm always down to watch these movies.
We got different things to talk about this time, so it was perfect.
Come in with
new context.
Yep, exactly. So, with that being said, I think that's going to be it from us. So if you guys want to go around and tell the listeners where they can find you online.
I'm Graycon Law on Tumblr.
I'm Danielle, and I'm a Social Justice League on Tumblr.
I'm Katie, and I am Story Advocate on Tumblr.
And of course, you guys can find me at Nerdy Nick here on YouTube, True Man of Steel on Twitter and Tumblr. Definitely keep an eye out for the next few weeks. We might be doing more of these commentaries as well as the discussion of Batman v Superman, Man of Steel.
I was gonna say we gotta watch the next one now.
All right, so definitely guys, check out for those. And thanks for listening, and for everyone here, thank you guys. I love watching the movie with you guys and talking about it and ranting about Warner Brothers and stuff. I know that's discussion isn't going to end anytime soon, but I'm rambling now. So thanks you guys for joining me, and until next time, have a good one.